This is the NTT IndyCar Series. With live coverage of today's practice, this is the IndyCar Radio Network.
About the Hy-Vee IndyCar race weekend, it is here. Mark James, Davey Hamilton, set to take you through the next couple of hours, in fact. It's interesting to see the schedule that they put together for practice before we go qualifying and racing tomorrow. And then again on Sunday, Davey, we will start this session with a couple of groups trying to work in the High Line here at Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, so, obviously there's new asphalt down in the corners. First and second group, completely new, very smooth. They were able to test here very fast, by the way, Mark, and that's why they're going to try to get a little bit of rubber on that outside line just because it was so fast on the bottom around here. Nobody really ventured up in that second group. Now, since then, some things have changed. They've taken some downforce away from these cars, Mark, to try to make that outside groove a little better, make it to where you're not just wide open around the bottom. And by the way, Firestone has came with a little different tire, a little harder tire, a little more durable to try to prevent blistering going on, which we have seen in the Indy Next Series.
First things first, installation laps before they get that highlight activity underway. That's what we are watching now as we speak, as the cars all return to their respective pit boxes. Going to be a warm one. Let's get details on the conditions on this day from Michael Young.
Yeah, warm, but the sun has hidden behind some clouds here in the Iowa skies and have made things a lot more bearable. Only 82, but the humidity is extremely high. Track temperature is 120. You talked about the installation lap. All the cars making their way back down to pit lane. We stand in front of Scott Dixon's box, and his car and crew are going to work. I should say the crew going to work on that car. They're taking the engine cowling off and looking things over, but it will be a very interesting practice session after what we saw on the Indy Next by Firestone. Will the same thing happen here? Well, we will find out throughout this entire race practice session. Should be a lot of fun today.
Yeah, some specifics on that, Davey. That Indy Next session disrupted by some blistering, and they tried to make some adjustments. And in terms of times and speed, most everyone, little or no impact in terms of how fast they were going. But right now, championship leader with the changes and the downforce that they made to that race car. Louis Foster, for one, not happy with what unfolded.
Yeah, so here's what happened. They did come here to do a test. Unfortunately, that test got rained out. They weren't able to get any laps in. No test, no data. So they came back just kind of guessing what they needed, and I'm talking about Firestone as far as the tire, the series as far as downforce. They made a choice. They came back. Unfortunately, the times went over, under track record speeds. They were going really fast, and tires were blistering pretty rapidly. So they stopped it in the middle of the session, decided to take downforce out of the cars. But the problem with it is they had too much downforce to start with. When they took downforce out, they just went faster yet. About 20 laps into each run, the tires would blister, and they'd have to pull in. And so that, a 75-lap race with no pit stops, Mark, that doesn't get it. So they're in a very difficult crossroads right now. Do you take a massive amount of downforce out of these cars to where the corner speeds are very, very slow, to where it's not putting a lot of pressure on these tires to try to get them to survive the 75 laps, or do they put a massive amount into the car and really just slow them down to where they're wide open around here the whole way, but very slow?
Going to be interesting to see how all of that unfolds, and we will follow that. Let's hear from some of the participants this weekend, including championship contender Will Power.
With Will here on pit lane. I walked up and you were smiling, kind of laughing to yourself. I said, what's going on? You're telling yourself jokes? What's happening?
Oh, no, I just feel good compared to last weekend. I felt so under the weather last weekend. It just feels good to feel normal.
Well, and a nice breeze coming out right now, and it actually will help cool things off even more. A lot of unknowns coming into this. Some of the teams coming in testing with more downforce. They took that downforce away. Firestone came with a different compound. So how aggressive do we get out of the gate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least we get to run the old tire on the high line to start, just to get in the groove, and then go for a run on the new tire straight away. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be... yeah, interesting. Hotter, new tire, new downforce level, lower level, so less grip. We'll see what happens.
Are you slow to learn, or do you go after it and figure out right away what you have? How do you work a session like this?
It depends. I want to go straight out and do a quali sim, which is very different to race work. So I'm going to go out and try to feel it out.
Yeah, well, it was interesting with the Indy Next by Firestone. They took more downforce out of the cars. They went even faster than they did before, and we're expecting big speeds from you guys.
Yeah, that's right. They need to get to a point where these guys have to lift. I mean, if they want to stop the blistering. Yeah, they're obviously just not low enough there on the Indy Lights car, but I think we'll be lifting. I think we already were, but I think we'll be lifting, hopefully enough to not blister the tire.
Well, we'll let you get back to it. We're glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Oh, that's willpower, guys.
Yeah, looking forward to how well progresses throughout the course of this weekend. And, Davey, it seems like more than a handful of times over the past couple of years now that the repaving of some of these racetracks that we've gone to has figured prominently into the conversation. I mean, more recently, Road America and Mid-Ohio last weekend. There was almost as much talk about the repave at Mid-Ohio last weekend as there was about the unveiling of the hybrid. Yeah. And now, obviously, this is garnering headlines.
Yeah, and we'll go back to last week in Mid-Ohio on the repaving. And after I went out on the track, I told Savary and Green, who actually own that facility, I appreciate what they do. They're keeping their facility updated, keeping good pavement down, keeping their racetrack updated and solid. But that was probably one of the last tracks that really need paved. I mean, I thought it didn't make a huge change, but they're really good for the future. So that means they just stayed ahead of it. They didn't wait till the track deteriorated down so bad that it actually had to be paved. Here, it needed to be paved because of the bumps more than anything, Mark. It was really, you got to remember the winters that they go through here, the ground moving around, and they was pretty darn bumpy, especially down in turns 1 and 2. But through all the corners, they chose, hey, let's go dig that out, put brand new asphalt down. They did a great job by doing that. It's very smooth right now, but what it do? It increased the speed massively. And so we're like Mid-Ohio didn't really increase speeds or do any big changes. Here it did. So they have to take downforce away. As Will said, in the next cars is they got to take a massive amount of downforce away just so they have to lift. And the good news with IndyCar, they were able to test here and get that data. Firestone was able to make another tire. They really came to a conclusion on how much more downforce to take away. And the interesting said they were already lifting. We're in Indy Next. They're not lifting at all. They're wide open. So it's got to be a big chunk out of those cars to slow them down to make that 75 lap.
As I recall, that for a several-year period there, everyone was leery of the bump and where it more naturally appears at most racetracks, and that's the area over the tunnel.
That's right.
It turns 1 and 2, and then they worked very, very hard to correct that issue.
Yeah.
At about the time they did, then a bump showed up, I believe, in turn 3.
Turn 3, and then actually just throughout the corner, and there was those bumps. It wasn't like one huge one, or it was like ripples. It was like just like you could imagine that, like if an earthquake came and moved the ground around a little bit, and so you'd kind of hop over them, and then it would just upset the car. It was unsettling when the tire's not on the ground the entire time. So it definitely needed it, but like I say, it slowed us down on that old asphalt enough to where it really put on some pretty darn good racing. We weren't worried about tire blistering, but now with this new asphalt down, there's several things against us too. It's very hot here. Track temperature's high, sun's out, it's baking that racetrack. So track temp, I don't know where we're at right now, but it's very high. Ambient temp is over 100, or what's close to 100 degrees, but right now it's going to be a hot weekend. That doesn't help.
Well, thanks to the folks at Hy-Vee, this is a free Family Friday, and that means everyone here got in for free. And they're able to, later on today, Davey, they could visit the garage area. They could walk the track, get autographs from their drivers after the practice session concludes. And also, the Pit Stop Challenge under the lights is going to be part of the feature of Free Family Friday, we should say. The $50,000 in prize money up for grabs later this evening.
Yeah, no, how about that? Absolutely fantastic what they do here at this Speedway. We can see down in turns 4, going into turn 1, the beautiful hospitality, the suites there. And how about that back straightaway where it's several levels of campers that's packed back there? A lot of people here appreciate that. But this is not just a race. This is an event. I mean, obviously, we're here for the race, and this is the main focus. But when you have some outstanding acts playing before and after the IndyCar race on Saturday and Sunday, it's a great experience for these fans.
And, if you look down in turn number 1, all of those massive suites that were inside of turn 4 have now been relocated, so those up in the grandstand don't have to worry about any of the view being impeded. Let's hear from more of the participants ready to tackle Iowa Speedway this weekend. Michael Young.
Yeah, Alexander Rossi joins us on pit lane. You'll go out in the second group. We just talked to Will Power. Is it a great unknown going out here in this session? Really, I mean, the highline practice, obviously, you have a mission, but with the rest of the session, do we even know?
No. It's pretty wild to think about what we're trying to accomplish in a 90-minute period. You know, you're trying to get in some Houstons. You're trying to understand what the differences are from the test. It's a lot different ambience, obviously different downforce level. It's a different tire. And then you're also trying to get a longish run in to see, is there drag on a new surface? So, yeah, I mean, I agree with Will. It's pretty wild what we're trying to accomplish, but same boat for everyone. You just have to go out and get through as much of it as you can.
Is there anything from the test you could take away and learn with basically now a new tire and less downforce?
Not really. I mean, you know that this, I guess the differential in the surface grip and the smoothness. You're no longer concerned about bumps at Iowa. So that sort of car performance and car balance you can take, but in terms of like your overall pace and how to get the most out of it and what the car does over a stint, you have no idea.
It's way early, but do you think we'll see a high line develop throughout the weekend?
We need one. I really hope so. You know, if there's going to be minimal drag, which I still think will be the case, you have to have 2 lanes. So this is really good of IndyCar for doing this. It seems like everyone's playing ball in terms of running lane 2, and it's very important for the show that we're able to get a second lane in.
Good luck out there. That's Alexander Rossi, guys.
Well, and as you heard Will Power say, the reason it makes sense for everyone to run that high line is because right now they're running a tire that they're not going to be able to use in the race.
Yeah.
So they might as well use that tread off of those Firestone Firehawks to help rubber up that high groove.
Yeah, and it does help. Trust me, going out and just getting rubber laid down that second groove helps, but if you really want help, I'm a short track guy. We love having second grooves, and if it's not there, we go spray some kind of a track, whether it's VHT, Clorox, Coke syrup. There's a lot of different things that you could spray up there, and really makes it sticky. Matter of fact, so sticky sometimes that when you walk across it, wants to pull your shoes off. That really makes the outside groove. So, not knowing how good this is going to do it, they're doing a good job. Matter of fact, in the short track days, Mark, we actually cone off the bottom where you can't even go down there. They make you go up there, and they make you run the whole first session upstairs, or you don't get to go out in the second session. So, and it's in the best interest for everybody. There's no question about it. And hopefully, just tire rubber in that second groove without any track prep will help, but we'll soon find out.
I do want to mention that throughout the course of this weekend, there's a couple of themes. Saturday's theme will honor our country's servicemen and women to align with the Hy-Vee Homefront 250 presented by INDYCAR. Sunday will be focused on helping to fight hunger across America to support Hy-Vee's 100 Million Meals Challenge with the final race of the weekend, the Hy-Vee One Step 250 presented by Gatorade. And Davey, it was announced yesterday. Link to the contract was not announced, which is not uncommon, but we do know that Hy-Vee, Iowa Speedway, going to be on the NTT IndyCar Series schedule for a few years to come.
Yeah, I talked to a friend the other day. He goes, hey, he always asks, where are you at this week? What race is going on? And unfortunately, he loves motorsports, but he's working. He can't travel with a lot of them. I go, we're in basically just out of Des Moines, Newton, Iowa this weekend. He goes, Newton, Iowa. And then I told him what this event, what it looked like, and what we did here, and the concert. And he goes, wow, that sounds like a great time. Well, it is a great time. Doesn't matter where we go or where the event is. That our racing is second to none around the world, by the way. I mean, we put on outstanding performance racing-wise. It's unbelievable. But then Hy-Vee and this track and actually the state to step up behind this event and bring the acts of entertainment here is just unbelievable. And just seeing how first class this facility is and what they've been able to do to get everybody to come. It's that they build it, they will come. That's kind of the what they've done here in Iowa.
And every year we wonder what are they going to do for an encore in terms of the top flight entertainment that they attract. This year, Luke Combs, Eric Church, Kelsey Ballerini, and Post Malone. That's a pretty stout lineup.
Yeah, no, it's a stout line every year. I mean, it's fun, and they bring somebody new, different kinds of acts. And by the way, it's not just them down playing in front. They put up a complete stage for these acts, and I mean, it's like a full-on concert. The infield's open, the grandstands are packed. They put on a proper concert, like I say, before and after, and it's amazing. It's just fun watching them how fast they can set and tear down the stage before the race and after the race to get the music acts on
yeah,
play.
And as we mentioned, at about 6:30, the infield will be opened up to everyone here today. Fans will have the opportunity to take a walk on the track, enjoy some unique experiences in the infield area, and of course an autograph session scheduled for 6:15 to 7:15. That will be in the fan midway area by the main grandstand. So I think that's I think one of the things that they've tried to do over the past couple of years that they've worked with Hy-Vee to promote this event, Davey, is to give folks plenty of things to see and do while they are here.
That's right, yeah. You know, one thing that we're watching too real quick on Angela Cullen, a performance coach. She used to be with Lewis Hamilton for years in Formula One. Now with Ganassi Racing, pretty cool to see somebody come, you know, from any kind of Formula One over to our side and really enjoy it. So see, she's doing an interview down there. I'm sure she's happy to be on this side, Mark. But it's pretty interesting that the level of people we get here at IndyCar.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stories released recently. I think Nathan Brown was from the Indy Star that covers the NTT IndyCar Series, is talking about something along those lines, Davey, from the fact that, you know, while we talk about an expanding roster of drivers and expanding roster of teams, and while there's a healthy competition to get the best driver in the best seats and get him in your seat, Bobby Rahal, for one, was talking about the challenges that they're facing now in being able to crew these cars, which is something you and I have talked about for a couple of years.
You know, Bobby brought up a great point, and you know what? Bobby, the history and the experience that he has in this series is second to none. I mean, he's been here a long time. He's been here driver, owner. He's been out marketing. He knows what goes on, and behind the scenes, getting crew members is very, very challenging today, and it's part due to we do have a short season, okay? Our season's not year-long. It's not like going to a job that you work the entire year long. We're pretty short season. In our off-season, there's not a lot to do. There's only so much you can do around the shop and prepare for the following year. So some of these teams lay people off, and so they have to go find something else to do for part of the season. And some of the greatest mechanics in this business, they may be lawnmowers right now. They just decided, hey, I want more of a steady income. I want more of a steady job. Now, a lot of teams do keep people on full-time, which is a benefit. But finding that quality crew guy that's willing to work as hard as it takes because when it's our season, look at our schedule. Look what we do. We travel a lot. And there, you got to remember, when we're traveling around and get prepared for our radio broadcast and be able to take the races to the world on our side, they're working in that shop somewhere, preparing these race cars, traveling down the road, doing the same thing. It's a lot of work, especially when there's accidents, racing week in, week out. We do have a little bit of a break coming up here after Toronto for the Olympics, but it's not an easy job for sure.
Dixon, Palou, McLaughlin, Siegel, Herta, Ferrucci, Kirkwood, Rahal, Armstrong, Carpenter, Lundgaard, Fittipaldi, Harvey, and Simpson. Those are the drivers that are working this session right now. Again, split into two groups. The second group going to go in just a few minutes once this one wraps up. And while we have seen some drivers go low to the inside groove to make a pass, saw Colton Herta do that. Also saw Joseph Newgarden do that. They worked their way around Kiffin Simpson. By and large, Davey, everybody doing what IndyCar would like for them to do and staying in that high line and doing all they can to get that thing as rubbered up as possible. So at the start of this session, it feels how, and then how do you hope it feels once this session is over? Yeah,
well, the key is, right, so when they get this session over, obviously Group 2 will go out. They'll run that high line. And you can see these drivers, very, very dedicated and very, trying hard to make sure that second groove. They're mostly going in that second groove. I mean, like I say, every now and then somebody may be getting held up. They'll go in the low groove, get by them, go back that high lane. But they're working hard to make sure that second groove comes in because it's very important to all of them. And then what we like to hope to see is when it's an all skate coming up a little bit after these sessions, that we find some drivers going up there because it seems to be fast and they may be able to cut a good line. It's just a passing going on. That is the ultimate goal. I think as the weekend goes, it should come in, but we got to remember nothing. It's very hot. We continue to say that, how hot it is. Ambient tip, nearly 100 degrees. Track temperature, we don't know what it is right now, but it's going to be extremely hot. And then heat index is much over 100 degrees, so that's going to play a big part in how these cars work.
It's somewhat D-shaped, and to that end, as many years as we've been coming here, and as many laps as you've turned out there in the two-seater and whatnot, I mean, bottom line is this: where you're looking to work in that second groove is between 1 and 2, and then again 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's right, and that's exactly right. I mean, you just want to be able to get your car to be able to just at least hang in there equal with the car on the bottom. And the reason that you got to understand, when you go on that outside groove, it's a much bigger distance. You're traveling more distance to go around this racetrack. What we do as race drivers try to make the smallest circle as possible, so that time's better. So we you just want to make it as small as you can. the bigger you make it, usually the slower you go, but you want to make that outside groove to where you're at least equal to that time, so you can go up there at least to make passes and run side by side to these corners.
Boy, in the not too distant future, Davey, we're going to observe 20 years here at Iowa Speedway. I mean, the first race here back in 2007, it was won by Dario Franchitti. Listen to this podium. Dario Franchitti, Marco Andretti, and Scott Sharp.
Yeah.
How about first, second, and third?
Yeah. I mean, just amazing. We've been coming. Well, time goes by too fast, Mark. I tell all the time, where's time gone? But that's just amazing that we've been 20 years. It doesn't seem like, Rusty Wallace, I remember talking to him, would say, I'm going to build a track in Iowa. And I go, what? Like, are you kidding me? In Iowa? And he was, obviously he designed this track. It's still a big part of it. He worked very hard to get NASCAR, which finally happened. And now here it is 20 years later that we're one of the premier races on our circuit.
So an economic downturn kind of hurt business and industry in this community, and a group of farmers got together with this land. Somebody knew somebody, as I understand it, who knew somebody, got a hold of Rusty Wallace. They built this racetrack, and certainly, over the years, it has become a popular stop on the NTT IndyCar Series.
Yeah, it's traveled through a few hands, as you just mentioned, a few different track promoters, a few different owners, some ownerships changed in this. But right now, it seems that they really have it solid. And when I say that it takes everybody to make an event like this happen, so it's from the state all the way down to the people working this race facility and everybody in between, like Hy-Vee and all their sponsors that they bring in, the track ownership, everybody that's committed to make this a success. And by the way, and none of this happens and none of it's successful without these great fans of Iowa and a lot of people that come from all over to come and see this track, because it's a full-on event. It's not just a race. It's not just a concert. We're mixing it all together. A lot of fun here, and beautiful scenery, too, out here in Newton, Iowa.
Well, with Knoxville not too far away, I mean, the race fan was already here.
Now, I do want, that's right. Knoxville, by the way, is the most popular and the largest sprint car racetrack in the world. There's more, it's more known for the Sprint Car Hall of Fame. Fortunately, my father got inducted in that a year ago. Is there? It's just an outstanding place. If you're anybody that's in sprint cars, you've been there, you've seen it, and it's literally right down the road. Now, I need to work on their schedule a little bit. They're racing with us. They're racing Saturday night as well.
Okay.
They need to maybe do it Friday. If it was tonight, I'd probably run out there and watch it, because it is an outstanding facility. If you haven't seen it before, seen a race there, you need to do that. And their museum's second to none, and it's right down the road.
In addition to, of course, the dominance and the mastery of Joseph Newgarden here at Iowa Speedway over the years, Andretti Autosport, and now Andretti Global has been very, very good.
Yeah, they were on a roll. How about Marco? Get some wins here as well. And Dario, as you said, won the very first one. Very strong here. But, man, I'll tell you what, Joseph Newgarden, not just here at this oval, but he's an oval guy. His stats really stand above everybody's right now on the ovals. And with 4 of them out of the next, 5 races coming up. Well, 4 events. So you got to remember, this is a doubleheader. Milwaukee's a doubleheader. So, we have 6 oval races really to decide this championship, with Toronto and Portland in there as well. So it's gonna, he's way down in the points, but watch out for Joseph Newgarden, because he's the guy that's been dominating the ovals for the last few years.
Question is, you have to ask yourself, if you're Joseph Newgarden, there's got to be a little bit of concern about how is the car going to perform, given how much different this is. And the whole scenario is from the way Iowa Speedway was, and the car that he's driven here.
That's right. There's some differences, as you just said. With it's a different compound tire. It's a different track surface. It's a hybrid car. A lot of different things about it. But we can continue that same thing. Is, well, how's it going to be with the canopy, with the aero screen on these cars, with the heavier weight? It all seems like he seems to be able to figure it out pretty darn good. A completely new challenge. This isn't like it was last year. It's not just like, hey, let's put the setup we had on last year and go get it done. Like I say, with a different track, different tire, and the hybrid system, it's going to throw a kink in there, but don't count him out.
I think, too, over the course of the weekend at Mid-Ohio, Davey, with the unveiling of the hybrid, I think from the Honda and the Chevrolet, the Ilmor, the IndyCar perspective, I think with a possible exception of the fate that false Scott Dixon that knocked him from contention early on, allowed him to take a bit of a points hit. I guess when it comes to that hybrid and its performance in Mid-Ohio, no news is good news. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah, that's right. No news is good news. Unfortunately for Dixon, I haven't talked to them directly. Don't want to jump in there too much because I don't know good or bad. We just want to find out what happened. I've heard a few things on what happened. It was with the hybrid system and how much power was in it and how much power you have to start the race with. And there's a lot of things that go into it. For example, you can't have too much power in at the start of the race. So they have these devices that they plug in the back of the car. It almost looks like a hot plate that takes takes energy out of the back of that car, out of the hybrid part of the car, and that's what they start with. So it sounds like he had not enough to keep the car running on the track. So, but like I say, without me talking to him directly, I'm not sure.
Let's see. Rinus VK, Augustin Canapino, Alexander Rossi, Linus Lundqvist, David Malukas, Marcus Ericsson, Roman Grosjean, Stingray Robb, Pato Award, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, Felix Rosenqvist, and Katherine Legge in the 51 machine this weekend for Dale Coyne. They get their highlight session now. That'll run about 15 minutes in length. And the drivers that just completed their session must report to pit road. That's McLaughlin, Dixon, Blow, Herta, Rahal, Ferrucci, Armstrong, Siegel, Lundgaard, Kirkwood, Simpson, Carpenter, Fittipaldi, and Harvey. Speaking of Dale Coyne Racing, Katherine Legge in the car this weekend. What a run by Toby Sowery.
Oh, what an absolutely outstanding run with Toby. I mean, I'm very impressed with him. Glad he got that opportunity. Showed what he's made of. Did a really good job. I'm glad to see that for Dale Coyne. By the way, Katherine Legge in that car here, as we just mentioned. Happy birthday. I think it's her birthday. I think it's today, if I'm not mistaken. It's Catherine's birthday today. So happy birthday to Katherine. Hopefully she has a good weekend, a good birthday weekend. And hey, that little bit of time that they were on track, just getting that second groove in that Group 1, they completed 45 laps, majority of these cars. That tells you how fast you can burn laps around this place.
Yeah, going to be interesting to watch it unfold throughout the course of the weekend. And do want to add one more layer to the Dale Coyne saga in terms of drivers getting opportunities. The driver no familiar to Indy next by Firestone, Hunter McElroy, got the opportunity to test that car on Monday at Mid-Ohio Sports Car.
And one thing we always know about Dale, he does give a lot of good opportunity to drivers, to people to come into the series. I really appreciate that. It gives a lot of drivers opportunity to race in this series. We like to see Dale with a solid sponsorship. We'd like to see him with the same drivers to really compete for wins. But you know what? I so appreciate him being able to give multiple drivers opportunities. So, I'd like to see him in winner's circle, no question about it. But I really appreciate what he does by giving so many drivers opportunities.
Some notes that you might find interesting. Andretti has won 7 of the 19 previous races at Iowa Speedway. Dario, TK, Marco, as we mentioned, Ryan Hunter-Reay, James Hinchcliffe. Team Penske has 7 wins here, including Elio, and all of those by Joseph Newgarden. Simon Pagenaud. Chip Ganassi has a couple of wins here. Dan Weldon and Dario Franchitti. Now, Davey, Scott Dixon is the only driver to have been in every race here held in Iowa. He has 11 top 5 finishes in his previous 19 starts, but this is one of those rare birds that he's never captured. He's never won here.
You can say that about very few places for Scott Dixon. You know he wants to. You know that he can. You know that he's been close to doing that. But this is one that he wants to mark off. By the way, being the only driver, that really makes me feel. I mean, I raced against Scott, right? He's still doing it, and he's still not done with setting records. He's a record setter. It seems like every time he does something different on the track, it puts him somewhere on that record book. And it's been a pleasure for all of us to be able to watch and follow a guy like Scott Dixon, to watch somebody in his class in front of our eyes be able to do all this. But don't count him out for this weekend either. He can get the job done.
Joseph Newgarden, not just good here, as you talked about, Davey. Ooh. He's won 9 of the last 12 oval races on the series schedule, including 3 of 4 held at Iowa Speedway during the Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend in 22 and 23.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I tell you, it's going to be fun. Every time I come to this weekend, you think, okay, Newgarden's dominated, but, it could stop. It could, he's good, but there could be some bad luck there as well. There could be other guys chasing. Nobody just sitting around saying, okay, we'll let him win those races. I mean, they're working just as hard to try to be able to knock him off the top. Been there, been dominant at places, then you go back, and if you miss one little skip, like I say, with the tires, the track, the hybrid system, is that what it's going to take to make Joseph struggle a little bit and have the other guys, be able to, to pounce on him? You got to remember, one of the races he was dominating, he got a little bit of trouble, off the corner here, which that could have been another win for him.
Yep, let's go to Michael Young.
Yeah, that was Santino Ferrucci. So you just climbed out of the car. What were your thoughts of the Highline practice, and how is this track?
Yeah, obviously, track's pretty awesome. Highline feels really good. I was able to get a bunch of good runs. I'm pretty confident in my race car just overall, so maybe for those that, are still struggling a little bit, it's definitely a little bit more sketchy up there, but from the looks of it, if we get a pack race, it looks like it might be usable, assuming it's clean.
This team has made huge leaps and bounds this year. Last weekend in Mid-Ohio, you were fantastic. What is gelling with everything right now? Where is this success coming from?
Man, just that continuity, being back for me for a second year. I'm driving way better. My communication with the engineers is way better. Obviously, the Penske Alliance is huge. It's really helping us out. Obviously, it wasn't plug and play. At the start of the year, we struggled a lot testing. We didn't have a lot of pace. But once we found a car that I really liked that fit my driving style, we've really picked up the pace. I mean, even look at the Iowa test. We started off not close to being on pace, and we ended up right there. So, no, it's just understanding how to get this car to work for me and, understanding how we work with all of our new engineering squad. And, man, it's like the dream team over here. It's been awesome.
So we have a lot of names floating around for 2025 that will need rides. Where will you be? Back in this car for a third year?
That's the hope. So obviously nothing's set right now. Obviously talking with Larry literally every day. Not just about that, but about fun stuff too. But no, I mean, that's the hope. We kind of build on the continued success here and go for a championship run next year.
Lastly, you were one of the teams that were able to test here, but the tire compound's different and the downforce is completely different. Do you have anything in mind of what this car will be like, what you actually get out there on these new tires?
Yeah, man, Firestone's pretty freaking consistent, let's be honest. These guys work their butts off. They're real good. Changing that right side compound, I don't think is going to adapt much for us. Just making it softer. Like I said, they're just trying to take care of the blistering. If anything, they're going to make the racing better by making it wear more. And as far as removing the downforce, hey, I'm all for it, man. I was most trimmed at Road America. Worked out great for a long run, and just too bad we stalled in that race. But, hey, I'm all for it, man. Let us drive.
Heck of a job, and best luck the remainder of the day. I'll say something to Larry, but I don't know what good it would do to get you in this car for the third year.
I'll take any help I can get.
That's Santino Ferrucci.
Yeah, well, first things first about his future, Davey. I mean, this is clearly a driver that has every intention of going back to A.J. Foyt next year and hopefully working out a deal with Larry. And a lot of people associated with that race team. You've had a relationship with it. Heck, they're almost like family to you, if not
absolutely.
So. And I got to think that's the goal for that race team. At least that's the goal that would make the most sense.
Yeah, it's A.J., but I'm going to hire the guy with the funny hair back in the future. But he likes Ferrucci. He does like him. He thinks he can get the job done. It's all based around funding, unfortunately, and so if all goes well and AJ's able to say, hey, we got plenty of funding, we can pick the drivers you want, I almost assure you that Santino will be in that car. Like I say, they like him, they get along well. Him and Larry get along really good. The team likes him. I talk to the team all the time. They're content with him, and he's a fighter. He wants to win. So one thing that he does is he gets frustrated at times when the car's not good, but he takes it pretty darn good and knows it's a team sport and tries not to throw anybody under the bus. We've seen him win some controversy with some of the other drivers out there, but that's just the passion that the race driver has, and that you want to win. You want to be up front. You want to make sure that you're getting the job done and wants to find himself. And by the way, another top 10. I think he's top 10 in points right now. I mean, definitely doing a lot better. And as you said, the Penske Alliance definitely is a positive for for the AJ14. I think.
Well, they've upped their game in a number of ways.
Yeah, that's
not just
right.
that.
That's exactly right. That you said that nail on the head. They were fast at Indy last year without Penske, and they actually finished better without Penske at Indy than they did with Penske at Indy. But in the day, they were both still really good. They were both in front of the pack, but I think the overall picture and him being the 14 being more competitive overall has definitely been a help.
The other thing that he brought up, and he mentioned it very early on, is we're going through this highlight practice now. There's about 6.5 minutes remaining for this particular group, but the thing that I found most interesting, and he said, yeah, I think with the changes they made with the softer compound to prevent the blistering and the downforce reduction and all of that, he said, if it's clean, we can use that second groove. And as you know, Davey, as this race progresses, that's a big, big if up high.
That's a big ask. And one thing that you got to remember that will potentially help that second groove, maybe not the third, but the second is we get into lap traffic pretty quickly here, Mark. And when those leaders get to those back cars, they have to go to that high side. They have to make sure they go up there. Now, if the track, and that help cleans it off, no question about it. But if it's a situation where it doesn't, then what happens is the leader catches up to the back of the field, then everybody runs the exact same speed because nobody can go upstairs. That's not what we want to see.
Well, and what's different is, let's face it, a couple of years ago, a mile and a quarter Worldwide Technology Raceway, we ran into a situation where the leader caught the car at the rear of the field and couldn't work their way around him. I think because this is a high-banked, much shorter oval, that it does create passing opportunities for cars when they catch the rear of the field. Yeah,
and I feel that there's more pressure on you here at this track to do that when people come up because that means second place is coming, third place is coming. It's like, okay, you got to do all you can to get around that lap car.
4.5 minute mark left in this, and any concerns at all? It's got to be a bit of a head scratcher for these setup guys and these engineers because gosh, you've got a Saturday night race and you turn around and come back Sunday afternoon.
No, I know it's very short time frame in between races, so you hope that the first race goes good. There's no engine changes, there's no crash damage, there's nothing to fix with these cars because it's going to be a really quick turnaround. Not just, as I just told you, it's a quick turnaround for us, much less these teams. I mean, we get here late night, we got to be back here early the next morning, and we don't have cars to fix, and hopefully they don't either. So yeah, it's going to, and physically on these drivers, this is a very difficult racetrack. When you, the G-forces are sustaining the speed, so it's a mental and physical racetrack that's high in demand, and it's going to be a challenge for these drivers with blistered hands and a lot that goes with it to get rejuvenated for the next day.
Unapproved engine changes after Mid-Ohio for Kiffin, Simpson, and Graham Rahal, and because it's an oval, 9 position grid penalty instead of 6 on a rookie.
That's a big penalty anywhere, but oval or not, but that 9 position, that's a painful one to take. So they're definitely going to be, that's a definitely disadvantage, no question about it. So we'll see where they end up qualifying and where they end up starting the race.
So again, about 3 minutes remaining in this session, and again, been pretty impressed, and I'm sure the series going to be happy with its drivers because everybody understanding the stated goal here, Davey, they're staying pretty high working in that second group.
Yeah, a lot of laps ran. McLaughlin 44 right now, Dixon 42, Pillow 40. I mean, so they're doing their job. 47 for her to, and you look out there, and I mean, it's 95% of the cars are in that second group, really trying to get that thing rubbered in. A few of them down a little bit too low, but they're doing what they can, and hopefully it all works out. They get that second group built in.
And it's very, very important, and they're trying to make the competitive balance the same for everybody. And there have been some conversations, and I guess some grumblings a little bit. Teams feeling as though that what we come and test here for if we're going to change everything on the car and with the tire compound and everything after that test. Well, that's one of the reasons why you test. You have to get that data.
Yeah, they answered themselves, right? I mean, that is the reason they test, because of, with so many new things, they try to make sure when they came here for that test, Firestone thought, okay, this is the tire that's going to need, this is the downforce stuff we're going to need from the series. They come and test and find out, we missed it by a little bit, let's change it before it's too late, and they all were able to do that.
Well, speaking of Firestone, we did catch up during the session, the Indy Next practice session, with Kara Kristalik, one of the absolute best at what she does. And we wanted to get the timeline for her going back to the test here for the NTT IndyCar Series. And Kara gave us all the specifics on the timeline from when we left here at the test to when we arrived at Iowa Speedway here today.
So we came here for the test, and if you remember, they repaved this in May. So about 6 weeks after that, they had the NASCAR race, and then 2 weeks after that, we were here for the test the first time. The cars were very, very fast, and there was no drop-off. So here at Iowa Speedway, we like to see drop-off. It makes for a good race. It makes for good separation within the team, the drivers, so there's not a lot of pack racing. You had very, very consistent tires lap after lap after lap, and we were well underneath the track record, almost 190 miles per hour for an average lap, and we're talking for a long run. So this is not just a short qualifying run, but for long runs, lap after lap after lap, they're very fast. So our miracle workers back in Akron, Ohio, were able to come up with a new compound, a slightly new construction, and come up with the tires just in time for the race here. So a lot of work has been put into it, so we want to make sure we see a little bit of drop-off on the event. So there's a lot of work that went into making sure we have a good race.
Kristalik, and good stuff and great insight, Davey, on how this process unfolded for Firestone and the NTT IndyCar Series.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to go to tire manufacturer companies and watch a tire be made. It's not easy. I mean, it's like making a cake, but for the compounds, the nylons that go into it, the construction that they build it, everything is so precise. They have to make every tire exactly the same, and it's not easy to do, and it's pretty amazing when you go to these tire plants and watch the tires be made, how consistent and how much work that they had to put in to make that tire for this weekend.
Well, let's not forget and dismiss so easily where they are in terms of the schedule. I mean, we had the race in Mid-Ohio last week, and then, of course, we had, we got this doubleheader weekend here in Iowa. We had, a WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca at the end of June, and then, Road America, Detroit, the month of May, and all of that. So, I mean, they're already pumping out the Firestone Firehawks at a pretty good clip, and to realize that there was an issue here after that test and do that quick turnaround is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I say, just to know what they went through to make these tires and figure out exactly what they needed. And by the way, they had to guess a little bit because they didn't get to come and test again. So, you got hats off to them. I know they have some interesting, situation with Indy Next, but they're right now it seems good with IndyCar and right now, the session's over, Mark, for the second groove. The track is being inspected right now. All the teams are coming in. Now, we're going to have about a 15-minute break between now and the open practice session for their all-escape, but they're changing to a different compound tire, the new compound tires, the new tires that they made for this event. And so we got a little bit of a break coming up right here in between there.
So let's go back, take a look at the race at Mid-Ohio 1 week ago, and how about the big win by Pato O'Ward, Davey? That was a very popular win. Not for Alex Palou fans, but it was very popular for Pato O'Ward.
Yeah, how about Palou? I mean, it was a pit stop that really made the difference. Palou was leading the race. By the way, when he put on the softer alternate tires, he just could not get long-term speed out of them. The DAG was pretty high on those, which we like seeing, but most of the teams, including Pato O'Ward, was able to kind of hold consistent speed. Palou had about a 6-second lead, but when he got on those reds in that one sector, he just could not keep the speed up. That allowed Pato O'Ward to get right behind him. What does Pato do? Pits one lap earlier because Palou was holding him up and came out, did his pit stop, came out. Palou came in the next lap, by the way, had a little malfunction in the pit, wasn't able to get that car locked into gear, lost just that small amount of time, but probably enough to lose him the lead. Once he came back on track, he was right behind Pato, but couldn't do anything with him, and a popular win for Pato O'Ward.
Well, he felt pretty good about his car's performance on the alternate compound, Davey, and he knew that Palou was really, really strong on the black, so he said from a strategic standpoint, all they needed to do was stay up and close in that first stint, come into the pits, put all those alternates, and then try to close the gap. And boy, did he.
Did he ever. Now, one thing I remember, when Pato O'Ward got out of that car, somebody mentioned, they go, we're happy Pato won, but man, we would like to see him be a little more excited about it. Let me tell you about what Pato O'Ward just went through. He was absolutely drained. He has Alex Palou, the points leader, one of the best in the business, on his bumper, trying to pass him. He is trying not to put a wheel wrong. He's trying to get as much speed out of that car as he can. It's very hot there. It's a physical demanding race. He got out, and I mean, he basically sat down. I mean, he poured water over his head. He's taking drinks. He even said before we interviewed him, he said, man, I just got got to catch my breath here a little bit, man. I am wore out. And then you seen him up on that podium, absolutely spent. So that tells you what it takes to win an IndyCar race, and the physical and mental and the strength that you have to have. And by the way, don't forget, this is a double header. It's going to be, the heat index is going to be well over 100 degrees. Track temperature is going to be really high. This is a physical track too. With as fast as we go through these corners, man, it takes some physical strength to get around this thing, not just for a race, but now they got it for 2. So wait to see if these drivers are spent after these races.
Tony Kanaan was happy enough for both of them, I think. The post-race celebration. TK was really happy. He called it a great job by the team. Pato did, understandably so, and let's face it, second win of the season, but we know how we got the first one at St. Petersburg, and I think that's why they were a lot happier about this.
Yeah, nobody wants to win a race like that, but you know what? You take him when you can, and it's not his fault that there was issues with the Penske group, so he did get that first win, but he didn't get to celebrate it like you're supposed to. This one he did. Unfortunately, he did celebrate it, but he was so wore out, I think that he probably, after the interviews were over, he was probably sleeping and just recouping from that one. That was very, very hard on Pato, but glad to see that for that entire team, for Pato. Shows why he's there. It shows that McLaren team, they're working hard and fighting to be, we can say it's a big 4 now, I guess, but it's still the big 3 is what you're trying to beat, and that's Andretti, Penske, and Ganassi.
Good run by Scott McLaughlin. He finished 3rd of the Sanzio Team Penske Chevrolet. That's his 2nd podium of the last 3 races. He's eaten up a little bit. Colton Herta starting to find some consistency and pace. He was 4th. A good weekend all in all, Davey, for Andretti Autosport, because Marcus Ericsson rounded out the top 5 in the Delaware Live Honda.
Yeah, and one thing, Mark, I have to say, obviously you do a good job at everything you do, but you had an eye on McLaughlin, and he was kind of quiet. We weren't really talking about it. The next thing, you watched him and seen where he was, and next thing you know, man, he is. I know Kyle Moore, you're a good friend. For many years, always does great strategy. But man, did they have a great stop? He comes out in 3rd place, was able to hold that off. Really good run by that team. Kind of snuck in there. Really, I mean, they didn't luck into it. They performed into it, but they did it very quietly.
We'll talk more about that Mid-Ohio race and what it means in terms of the championship. Let's hear from some of the participants to see how it went. If they feel good about the effort to get that high groove in, Michael Young.
This is not one of the participants this weekend. He's actually sitting on the sideline watching the boss climb into the car, Christian Rasmussen. Is that an eerie feeling to see someone else get into what I'm sure you're considering your car now, even though he's the owner?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, I knew what the deal was going into the season. So it is what it is. Obviously, when you're a race car driver on a racetrack, you want to be sitting in the race car. But just here to support, to learn. Hopefully, I'll be in the car here next year. So I'm just trying to suck up as much as I can to apply that for next year.
Yeah, a lot of the people would, if you think back a year ago in Indy Next, you won all of the oval races. So having not been on them, you did a heck of a job. What does this place kind of mean to you coming back to it, knowing how dominant you were last year?
I love Iowa Speedway. I think the racing here is so cool. I really enjoyed my Indy Next race here last year. Even though it got pretty hairy at the end when Jacob Abel was catching me, but it's a great place. I love what Hy-Vee has done with it over the past few years, making improvements every year. So it's always fun coming here.
For next year, obviously, Ed has talked about getting back into the car. He's going to run another season of ovals, but is there talk of a 3rd car that you can actually do the entire 17-race season?
We'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful to be doing a full season next year. We'll just see what happens.
9th at Mid-Ohio, this team has really gelled, and you've really grown into your own, I think, in this 2024 campaign. What are you looking forward to most in 2025? Once this season is done and you've been with this team for a year, what do you look forward to the most?
Yeah, I think just, having that experience and having all of those kind of rookie mistakes out of the way. I think start of our season has been a little bit of rough, just some bad luck and some rookie mistakes and that sort of stuff. But then we kind of put everything together at Mid-Ohio and, put together a very well-executed weekend overall with both a good qualifying and a good finish result in the race. So, in 2025, I'm just hoping to build on that, getting more consistent, getting better and better results, and, grow with the team. I think we've been doing a great job of becoming more and more competitive over the year, and that really came to show at Mid-Ohio, and even Laguna Seca was fairly strong for us as well. So it's two good finishes in a row. So I'm looking to do the same at Toronto and to cap off the season at Portland as well.
Any idea if Rinus will be back with you next year, and what has the relationship been with the two of you this year?
My relationship with Rinus has been great. Been loving working with him. It's been super nice. Even though we're the same age, it's you kind of still lean on him, just him having so many years of experience in the series. So a lot to learn from him, and he's been super nice to share that information with me.
Is he back with you next year?
That's enough for me to say.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask anyhow. Well, we wish you all the best the remainder of the season. Tough to see you sitting this one out, but great to spend time with you as always.
Thank you.
It's Christian Rasmussen, guys.
Yeah, and we've got that team right now 22nd in points in that leader circle standings, and that's very, very important, Davey, and interesting to hear how uncertain he remains about his future. A lot to work out, but as you heard Michael say, Ed has made it very, very clear that his intentions are to be back next year and run the ovals of the NTT IndyCar.
Yeah. So Ed, he told me the same thing, that he's very happy with Rasmussen. His intent is to have him back in that car. Thinks he's doing a really outstanding job. And goods and bads, Ed's not done racing. Ed, he's still a fighter. He loves these oval races. He wants to race some more himself. And with the budgets the way they are, not enough to run Ed as an additional car. So having to fill that seat in for Rasmussen. Obviously their goal is they need to be in that top 22 in points. That's very important when it comes to next year and getting that additional funding. So I've been impressed with him. I think he's done a really good job. I think, as he mentioned, no secret that he's gelling with the team. The team's made a few mistakes. He's made a few mistakes, but they're working together, and you just try to continue to grow from there.
Yeah, it seems like over the last handful of races, especially during practice over the course of the weekend, we have seen that kid climbing higher and higher in timing and scoring. Yeah,
and with confidence. That's another thing that I just think that he has the talent. He's just trying to get it all put together, all packaged at that team. It's really good that him and Reese get along well, too. They're both good kids. They both have the same goals, and to work together and try to make those goals together is going to improve both their performances. So, we don't know where Ed stands next year. I mean, obviously, that he's had the risk ROI, he's had Guy Care and BitNile. They've had that sponsorship for several years now. It's been very good to them. Don't know if, the plan is, I do know the plan is to continue on with those sponsorships and being able to allow that team to be able to hire who they want to and put the best drivers possible.
Well, this is not a new scenario for Ed Carpenter, because he was really one of the first that came along and said, you know what, I think I'm going to do the ovals. I remember, he was pretty self-deprecating when he talked about his abilities on the road and street courses and his comfort level there. And so he was one of the first that made the decision, hey, I think I'm going to stick to the ovals and put somebody on the road and street courses to give us a chance to win.
And what's really wild about that you have a driver like Ed that really excels on the ovals and he loves them, but go to the road course and say, you know what, I just don't have what it takes. And by the way, his results showed that. But if you look at the timing, I mean, we're talking, a tenth of a second,
right,
2/10 of a second. It's not like some big margin that he was way off the pace, because he wasn't way off the pace. He was right there. It's just that, you got to be that's a big deal when you can't find that little bit extra. And we thought, he did a really good job. He had some good finishes on the road street courses. He was getting there, but he just thought, hey, you know what, it's time. I'm just going to go to where I know I could win, to where I know I could be competitive, and more important, where he's confident.
And what was interesting is, the first choice that he made got to victory lane pretty quick, Mike Conway.
Yeah, how about that?
Yep.
Yeah, Mike Conway, matter of fact, just didn't deal with Mike. He's back. He had an injury, and get back in the race car, by the way, this weekend.
So, Davey, back to the discussion in Mid-Ohio, as we mentioned, not much discussion about the hybrid. Went off as well as could be expected, I think, and a lot of the discussion was based upon how those primaries and alternates were performed, and that ended up being the part of the discussion that won the race. That's right.
I think it was a perfect part of the tire combination, because of the alternates. They didn't last the full stint very well. You really had to take care of them, and the alternates were very good the whole time. So Firestone did exactly what they wanted to do, what we all want to see happen, to where you really got to manage your tire through the stints, and really Pelot took advantage of it and Pato took advantage of it. Plo missed it by just a small amount.
Let's head back to pit road, check in with Michael Young.
Yeah, with David Land of YouTube, and there has been much ado already this day today with tires and Firestone. We've yet to see what's going to happen with the NTT IndyCar Series, but a lot to get figured out, and I know the teams in the Indy Next by Firestone and all the higher-ups are scrambling right now with Firestone trying to figure something out. Any word or anything you're hearing?
No, not yet. I think I'm as concerned as everybody else right now. Certainly, we want to see this show be good, but I haven't heard anything yet. It was nice to see the Highline practice. Hopefully, we can get a second groove going. I think that's what everybody's looking for and looking forward to. If we can get two grooves, it'll be a really exciting race, but I haven't heard anything yet about exactly what's going on with the tires.
It's interesting as we get to this portion of the season. We're very oval focused and oval heavy, which I think we're all very excited about. But with the hybrid, what happened with Dixon last weekend and the variances in ovals, this really could throw the championship on its ear.
Yeah, that was kind of the worst case scenario, right? That one of the championship contenders would get struck by it in the very first race. But, we've never seen hybrid oval racing before, and that's something that has been, we talked to the drivers in the bullpen this morning. We don't really know what's going to happen. Some drivers think it's going to make a tenth or two difference, or maybe even a couple of hundredths, but that means something in current IndyCar racing. And some drivers don't think it's going to have any effect at all. Some drivers talk more about the 100-pound weight added to the car more than the actual boost of the hybrid. But the pay window doesn't open yet, right? We don't know if they're telling us the truth or not. I think it's going to be really exciting. I hope it does make an impact. We like seeing things change and hopefully a few different things happening in IndyCar race. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go green and practice for. We'll continue here at the Iowa Speedway, talking with David Land of YouTube. Lots of drivers and lots of names in the air for next year. I think one of the biggest dominoes is Alexander Rossi, where he's going. I understand the CEO of Prema will be coming this weekend, Pierce Phillips. So is that a potential for where he goes? So I think once Rossi figures out where he goes, I think the rest of these things may play out a little bit more quickly.
He's the biggest domino for sure. That Prema rumors going through the paddock like wildfire right now. I think there's very real substance behind that. We'll see. Again, I was kind of surprised, but I had heard Ganassi is another potential landing spot for him. So that would mean that someone would be out in Ganassi. And if that's a big domino too, where does, whoever gets bounced for Rossi go if he does go to Ganassi? But there's so many interesting aspects to it. You're right, Michael. Rossi's the big domino. Once he falls, we're really going to start to see everybody else fall into place. But I'm interested, too, to see what happens with Christian Lundgaard at McLaren next year. I think that's really intriguing. If you looked at it at Mid-Ohio, he was the only driver outside of the Big Four teams to be in the top half of the field. He was the only driver outside of the Big Four to win a race last year. So Christian Lundgaard at McLaren, I think, is a really intriguing thing for next year, too.
Then you look at Indy Next. You've got Louis Foster, Jacob Abel. You've got a lot of drivers that are going to be wanting to come up, but there really isn't a lot of room for anybody at this point, with Logan Sargent being rumored to come over and run in the IndyCar Series next year. It's anybody's guess where this whole thing ends up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing about IndyCar right now. We've got more cars than we've had full season, and we still don't have enough seats for all the drivers. I was talking to Jacob Abel about this earlier today, because he's one of those drivers, as you mentioned, who's been talked about so much about whether or not he's going to end up in a seat next year. And he said to me, I've got to be in a full-time seat if I'm going to run full-time. Maybe they could run, part-time or at the Indy 500 with his own team, but he's looking to find an actual seat. But like you said, it's so hard to find an actual seat. I think Jamie Chadwick's another name that you didn't mention that I think has a very realistic possibility of ending up in IndyCar racing next year. It's going to be so compelling and intriguing as this plays out through the rest of the regular season and into the actual silly season, which technically hasn't even started yet.
It's crazy. Where can all the listeners find you on YouTube?
Yeah, just check me out. It's my name, David Land, D-A-V-I-D, L-A-N-D. It's 9 letters, really easy to find. Look for the purple logo. Got 90,000 subscribers, looking to hit 100K pretty soon, and it's a good place to talk IndyCar.
And you got a purple shirt on as well, so well done.
You got to stay on brand, Michael. You know that.
I do know that. Thank you, David. David Land joining us from YouTube.
Yeah, become a good friend for sure. Appreciate David taking a few minutes to visit with us here at Iowa Speedway, and a guy that pumps out a lot of content, and he is a fan first and foremost, and built quite a following through that YouTube channel, and an interesting conversation, Davey. And I think what I find interesting is that you look at the expansion among race teams over the past 4 or 5 years, and the addition of teams like Hukos, Hollingers, and others full time, and yet, the seats are still, even with expanding rosters, the new team coming on next year, seats are very, very tough to find. And the harsh reality of it is, some very qualified, very competent drivers may very well find themselves on the outside.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is amazing that how much talent we have, and it happens. It's happened for a long time. There's always been more talent than rides, and you just want to try to see them get that chance, get the opportunity, and it'd always be nice to have all of them at times split seats and be able to race a few races just so that all the cream rises to the top and we get the very best. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. You're right on driver. You know, I don't know where Rossi is going to land. You feel like he's going to land somewhere, but you just look at the roster and how these new drivers are coming up, and I think Prima is the big question mark on. They're talking about having Logan Sargent from Formula One. Nothing solidified there yet. We know they're going to have a 2-car team. Are they going to get somebody like a Rossi, or are they going to get some young guys in there? It's hard to say.
Going back and continuing to recap Mid-Ohio, speaking of Alexander Rossi, all in all was a good weekend for him. Finished inside the top 10 again. He was 6th. Newgarden was 7th. Kyle Kirkwood 8th. We talked about Rasmussen, talked to him about his 9th place finish. We've already talked about Ferrucci and his 10th place finish. The great run by Toby Sowery. He finished 13th for Dale Coyne. And so a lot of guys, David Malukas just in front of him in the 12th position. David is making a strong bid to force Meyer Shank Racing to say, hey, we want you in that car.
Yeah, no, I think it really is, because that's another opportunity. You don't know what's going to happen over there. Really good team as well, but boy, Lucas, he seems to be doing a really, really good job with him right now, and I would expect him to stay there. Now, I know it's early on, too, Mark, in this practice session right now, but just to kind of get everybody up to speed, how about Fittipaldi, P1 right now, Canapino, P2, Lundqvist, P3, but then you got Katherine Legge, birthday today. We could have to mention that again to her, happy birthday. She's in that P9, but who you just mentioned, Malukas, in that P6 spot right now.
But we also see teams continuing to be judicious with their tires in this 90-minute session, Davey, because out of the 27 cars that are entered, there are 10 of them that have decided to not turn a lap yet.
Yeah, that's right. Not everybody's been out yet. It's going to get faster as we go. Matter of fact, top speeds right now, 179 miles an hour. Canapino just went 181. You got to remember what they were turning during the test, nearly 190 miles an hour, 9 miles an hour faster than our P1 guy right now. So, as you said, only 18 cars on the grid right now that have hit the track right now, and some of the heavy hitters haven't been out there yet, so it's going to be interesting to see when everybody gets out there. Newgarden has made some laps, by fact only 6 at that 172 mile an hour range. We know he's going to go way above that. McLaughlin as well, 172, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of laps they can all put in. We look right now, Stingray Robb has been out, Pato O'Ward's out on track, Ferrucci's on track. It's moving around pretty heavily as it always does, but we'll be excited to see all the drivers get on track.
Michael Young.
Now watching Romain Grosjean, that crew's going to make a damper change on the front of that car, but they were very meticulous looking at those tires on the front of Romain Grosjean, that number 77 from Hukos Hollinger. Everything has looked good thus far. I'm at Pietro Fittipaldi's pit box, also Christian Lundgaard's, looking kind of up and down pit lane, seeing who's doing what. So far, no tire wear or excessive tire wear, so fingers crossed the early stage of this practice session that the lower downforce and the actual harder tire compound might get us through this weekend unscathed.
Marcus Ericsson departs his pit box. We see Alex Below taking the wait-and-see approach. I believe that's Colton Herta parked not too far behind him. Ed Carpenter a little further back. Looks like Marcus Armstrong, Linus Lundqvist. I believe that's Kyle Kirkwood. He's taking the wait-and-see approach. Rinus VK waiting for him to exit his pit box. Same with Christian Lundgaard. Looks like the 77 of Romain Grosjean, and then right across from us, the number 9 of Scott Dixon. So those are some of the drivers that have not taken to the course yet. Pretty good day in Mid-Ohio for Chevrolet. Davey finishing first and third, as we talked about, taking half of the top 10, and they hold a slim lead in the manufacturer championship battle with Honda.
Very slim lead over Honda right now, and that's going to go back and forth. I have a feeling right now, if we just look on the board right now, it's a Chevrolet P1 with Canapino. How about Rahal? We know he's got a grid penalty, shoots up to P2. His teammate Fittipaldi P3, Honda, then Ferrucci in that 4th spot with the Chevrolet. Then we see Newgarden jump up to that 5th spot right now with the Chevrolet.
Honda ready to get back to victory lane here, Davey. They haven't been in victory lane at Iowa since 2018 when Hinch got to victory lane.
Yeah, well, that's because they haven't had Newgarden. It seems like Newgarden has everything figured out, and he happens to be in a Chevrolet. Just seems like he's so tough and so good right now on these ovals that he's the guy to beat. And with that Chevrolet package, with 6 races left on ovals, you have to think that Chevrolet's really liking their chances.
And that battle is 7-18 to 7-14.
Yeah, no,
so
yeah, it's a 4-point difference.
Sure. Yeah, so as you mentioned, busy time in the schedule, and we've got an issue in turn.
Looks like
number
Ericsson,
4.
I think.
That's Marcus Ericsson, who just recently left his pit box, Davey, and he is scooting across the infield grass as we speak, just shy of the start-finish line.
Boy.
And some damage to the rear end of that race car.
Yeah, a year that he probably would like to forget right now. He's had a few good runs, but just has not had that Ericsson expectation, I guess, that we all have had. You know, he wins the Indy 500, then gets a second in the 500, decides to go from Ganassi to Andretti. Just hasn't had it put together. I mean, he has ran good at times, but
since May, things have gotten better for him.
But unfortunately, things like this are just not good, where it looks like he just touched the right rear of that car coming off of turn 4. It doesn't look like a lot of damage, more than likely get it fixed, but boy, we know how important practice is. Have a little on-board camera right now, and coming in that back straightaway. Doesn't take long to complete that down into turn 3. He actually gets loose really early on corner entry, Mark. That doesn't usually happen. It's usually on corner exit, but he got loose on corner entry. As soon as he turned down to the back of that car, slid around, collected that turn 3 wall, slid around, ends up on the bottom of turn 4. Does look like a little more damage than I expected. The right rear, right front wings tore off it. As it now shows Michael Andretti on the telephone right now, maybe ordering some parts.
I mean, he carried a ton of speed down into turn number 3.
Yeah, he sure did. And that's just probably, you know, coming off of the test, by the way. You know, you have to slow down. The downforce is different. The tires are different. So, you know, you got to get used to that. Showed another on board with him at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Indy 500 when a car spun in front of him, and just Bloomquist actually spun in front of him, had nowhere to go, took him out on the first lap.
So, caution on the course now. And again, this is a 90-minute session, and we've got about an hour, 15 minutes or so remaining. Augustin Canapino is early P1, and then Rahal, Fittipaldi, Ferrucci, and Ericsson the top 5. Will Power 6th fastest. Newgarden, Lundquist, Siegel, and Grosjean through 10th. Malukas, Harvey, Armstrong, Katherine Legge, and Rossi through 15th. Then Rob, McLaughlin, Dixon, Award, Simpson, Ed Carpenter, Christian Lundgaard, Alex Palou, VK, and Kyle Kirkwood. And again, that fast speed so far, 181.352. And it's kind of unfortunate this caution comes out when it did, Davey, because we kind of reached that point in this session where everybody was ready to go out and start turning laps.
Yeah, we got 25 cars. You said majority of them have hit the track so far, but that little incident, a bummer for Ericsson, as we've seen again another slow-mo play. And he dirt tracked there for a while. It didn't spin completely around and swap. It just got that back end out as it went up the racetrack. Just could not gather it in, and like I say, has contact. Fortunately, he crossed across the track. Nobody did touch him, so good there. Again, you can just see the turn and looked he really wasn't even hardly turned in yet in that corner very early on with the back of that car stepping out.
So how about a whole lap here? What is the good entry point in one that'll carry you through 2, and again, running down that back stretch and then setting up for 3?
Yeah, basically this track pretty much plays the same, although both corners drive completely different. That is a very high entry. Try to get that car pulled down and do a late apex. So right in the middle of the corner is the apex. You want to do it about 5 or 6 cars after that's when you want to hit to the bottom of that racetrack to get a good exit. The front straightaway you mentioned earlier, it's basically a D-shaped racetrack. You're curving around that front straightaway, but the turn 1, it takes the same. That's that high entry, turn 3, high entry, and late apexes, Mark.
So the safety crew going to go out and do a track inspection, and Davey, we're hearing reports that there might have been a cut tire, so might be a piece of debris out there somewhere.
As early as that happened, because he's really not even at the corner, he's barely turning in. It's not even to the massive part of the corner, and that car stepped out like that. So a tire cut, something happened to that car, bottomed out right there. It could have definitely happened. I mean, obviously, we can't see that.
Sounds like that cut was on another tire.
It was somebody else's car, but he may have had the same thing where a tire got cut down pretty rapidly. And one thing that we always do is this: our safety crew is really good at going around, keeping these tracks clean, making sure there's nothing on there. That team will be able to get that car back, look at the telemetry, and be honest with you, we'll talk to Ericsson. He'll say, I know what he'll say, is that, hey, I turned in, the car just turned around with no notice. So, but he may have felt something in the car, like a tire go down or thing bottom out.
Yeah, that piece of debris a little less obvious than what we saw in the Indy Next practice. I don't see any leaf blowers laying around.
No, leaf blowers are pretty interesting when you have a leaf blower fly out of your car going on the racetrack. And as we mentioned, why a leaf blower? But that's what they use to cool down brakes, coolers, oil, and water coolers. So it's you try to take them out of your car before they send them, though.
Again, we're at that point, Davey, where we talk a little bit about over the past couple of weeks and the places that this series competes upon. I mean, you look throughout the month of June after you leave the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you're on the streets of Detroit, now unforgiving that is, and then you go to the wide open Road America, then Laguna Seca with all of its elevation changes and the challenges there, and kind of a combination of the two. When you get to Mid-Ohio, there's some flat, very fast portions of that track, and also the elevation changes. And then now you go from the doubleheader weekend at Iowa Speedway to the streets of Toronto, and there's just you might as well try to be good at as much as you can be good at, because you just ought to get comfortable with one form of racing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's one thing I've always said about this series, and I feel like they do a really good job at making sure you're the best driver in the world that can handle a street course, a road course. You have small ovals, and you have, like right here at Iowa, and you have the large ovals like you do at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you have to be good at all of them to win this championship, Mark.
So we want to say welcome to all the fans that are joining us on the public address here this afternoon. We welcome you on this free Friday, and a pretty exciting time for them, Davey. They got the pit stop competition a little bit later on this evening. Going to get a chance to walk the track and go back in the paddock. Plenty of entertainment in the fan zone adjacent to the grandstand here. Going to be a lot to see and do for those folks that are here at the racetrack.
Yeah, it makes it a long day for these teams, but I know the fans appreciate it, and the teams, they have fun. That pit stop competition is important to them too. When you participate, you definitely want to win that, because that's a big part of our sport, to be fast in the pits and do, the pit stops are part of winning the race. Matter of fact, just look at Mid-Ohio last week. Pato Ward, they did an outstanding job on that pit stop. No problems at all. I think Ganassi did a really good job too, but something happened where Pelot just couldn't engage quite quick enough, and just a little hesitation of the pit could have cost him that race.
Well, as a promoter yourself, and your son's now getting into the race promotion business, and you can fully appreciate all the steps that they're taking, because while certainly the racing is very entertaining, and that's ultimately why you want people here, the harsh reality of it is our attention spans are very, very short these days, and so there's got to be multiple forms of entertainment in one venue, and that's what they do here very, very well.
They do really a good job at it, and really make it, interactive with the fans, to make the drivers close to them, to make them feel they're really part of it. And they, like I say, this venue, I mean, this weekend, we look forward to it every year just because we know it's so exciting. And I mean, when all of our wives want to come because of the concerts.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's like they've seen the racing before, but this is one that really stands out on the schedule that they want to come to. And a lot of family call, they say, who's playing? What concerts are happening? Because they love the racing, but that's just a little bonus, and then they do a really good job of that here at Iowa.
And one of the things that I think is key for the fans here in terms of enjoying the racing is the fact that, Davey, there's not a bad seat here. I mean, you got a really good look at this racetrack no matter where you're seated.
Yeah, that's right. And that's we mentioned that earlier in Indy Next. It doesn't matter. We have a great shot at the pit area. We have a great shot at pit lane. We can see the entire track. We can see all the other fans. We see the camping across the back straightaway and people watching back there. And you can see every piece of this racetrack from every seat. So there's not a bad seat here, and you can see what's going on everywhere you sit.
This place has changed over the years that we've been coming here. As we mentioned, Dave, you go back to 2007. I can remember looking down in turn 3 and turn 4, rather, and just the top turn number 4, they had some temporary high school bleachers parked there.
Yeah.
And now look at these impressive suites that they have both in turn 1 and turn 4.
Yeah, by the way, these don't look like these look like permanent built suites, but these are temporary seats that they bring in. But I don't know. I think they fill them up every year, and they have several races here. It's something they probably ought to consider just leaving them up year-round, because they look like they should be here permanently. They're fantastic. They're huge. A lot of suites in there, and they're all sold out. That's the best part.
Yeah, it's a facility that's aged very, very well for sure. Well, the reason for the caution, in case you're just joining us, is a single-car incident involving Marcus Ericsson. We're happy to report that Marcus was able to get himself out of the cockpit of that race car. Looks like some rear-end damage to it. They will tote that thing back to the garage area. We see it on the hook as we speak now, as they're starting to make the turn back toward the Andretti Global garage, and the crew will set about the task of making the necessary repairs to that car of Marcus Ericsson. And our Michael Young has worked his way back toward the Infield Care Center, and hopefully before too much longer we'll get an opportunity to talk to Marcus Ericsson. Augustin Canapino is the fastest for now at 181.352. Graham Rahal second quick at 185.94. Pietro Fittipaldi at 179.872. Santino Ferrucci and Marcus Ericsson had worked his way into the top 5 before that incident. He had turned just 3 laps, by the way. Will Power 6th fastest. Joseph Newgarden 7th fastest. Linus Lundqvist 8th. Nolan Siegel 9th. Grosjean 10th. Malukas 11th. Harvey 12th. Armstrong 13th. Katherine Legge 14th. 15th Rossi, 16th Robb, 17th McLaughlin, Dixon 18th, Award 19th, Simpson 20th, Ed Carpenter 21st fastest, Lundgaard 22nd, 23rd Palou, 24th VK, and Kyle Kirkwood 25th. It's important to note just a handful of laps so far by Kirkwood, VK, Palou, Carpenter, Dixon, Stingray Robb, Rahal, Ferrucci, Ericsson, Power, and Marcus Armstrong. All had turned less than 10 laps, but Davey, now we look up on the clock, and you thought you had a wealth of time, but now there's just an hour left in this session, and that's going to give you an opportunity to turn a lot of laps here in 1 hour.
It does. And by the way, with the tire allotment they have, there's still plenty of time for all these teams to be able to go through their test notebook and make sure they get everything clicked off on what they want to do, trying to get the speed for these cars, not just for qualifying, but for the races as well. So still plenty of time with the tire allotment that they have.
Part of this session, the goal is to perhaps find some willing participants, most likely teammates, but if nothing else, just some willing participants, perhaps the same engine manufacturer, that somebody you can run in tandem with for the handful of laps to find out how your car is going to do in traffic.
Yeah, no question about it, and that is key. I mean, we just watched VK. He got out. He's getting after it immediately in that number 21 Geico car. He's on top of it. He goes out and he wants to know what the car is going to do, what it's going to feel like by itself. But the next thing is, yes, you're going to be in traffic a lot, so you have to find out what your car is going to do in dirty air, in that traffic, see where you can and can't pass. We do see, right now, all the cars on the bottom of the racetrack seems to be the preferred line. Still nobody in that second groove. But what I'm interested in is, will that second group still be good when it comes time to full-on racing and passing?
Well, bottom line is this. I mean, I know the bottom way is the short way around, and, obviously you can see that, but the ones that have been successful over the years here, like a Joseph Newgarden, I mean, the fact of the matter is their ability to put their foot in it to the high side and stay in it to the high side is what separates them from the competition.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. No question about it. I mean, you have to have confidence in these tracks, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring it up about Katherine Legge again. She really looks good out there. I mean, She, for somebody that's not full-time in this series, only ran the Indy 500, didn't get much of a chance there, went out really early, hasn't had an opportunity to be back in these cars. This track is very difficult, man. She came back, and she's looking really good right now.
Michael Young.
Marcus Ericsson out of the Infield Care Center. Clearly you're okay. You were the 5th quick when that happened, but it was an odd incident. What happened from your perspective?
Yeah, it was a bit strange one. We did the highline practice, the car felt really good, and the test here, the car felt really good, and then, that was the first proper run, and the rear just stepped out of me really early in 3 there, and I tried to catch it and just ran out of the road, so really unfortunate.
Is it a bump issue, a tire maybe gone? It just looked weird how the car stepped out on you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was an issue. I mean, maybe it was, but I don't think so. So we have to look at it. It was really, it came out of nowhere, really.
And then your car obviously is back in the garage area. The guys are working on it. When you were able to get out, how much damage is there to it, and can you still get back out in this session?
No, I think that's it. Right rear corner was all gone, and left or right front as well. So, yeah, I think it would be a miracle if we get back out here.
Thanks for the time. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's Marcus Ericsson, guys.
Yeah, and I guess, Davey, it sounds to me like that debrief's going to be a combination of video, telemetry, all those things to figure out exactly what
Yeah, because he said he came here and tested. The car felt great. You went to the high line testing. It felt great. But it was just so early in the corner. He barely turned in, and that back end stepped out right there. So, obviously, they're just too free. It's too free. But it was almost like, if you told me a tire was cut down and went low, I would believe you, because that's what it looked like.
Since his rookie debut in 2019, he's finished outside of the top 10 only once. His best finish here came last season, albeit with a different team. A 4th place finish in the first race. Race number 2 saw him lead 3 laps and get his 6th top 10 here at Iowa after taking the checkered in 9th. So obviously he's very comfortable here at Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, and he is very comfortable. And we've seen the success that he's had. We see how good he really is. And boy, just whatever reason this year just hasn't gone his way. He's had speed. He's had some, moments of brilliance, but then just a lot of bad luck, just like first lap at Indy when, Bloomquist spins in front of you on the very first corner, very first lap, and you have nowhere to go. Not your deal, but you got taken out, and it's just a bummer.
Yeah, you and I have discussed that at length, and in terms of the chemistry, and sometimes, just not the right place at the right time. I mean, you've made moves in your career. You felt like we're going to work out well, and for whatever the reason, they just didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Been there. I've been there. I've been out, taken out on the first lap of a race by, so many things are going to win it, and that it's not the case. It's still 199 laps to go, and there are just some situations, like you said, that just he just unfortunate, just some unfortunate situation. I think he does a really good job. We know he's a great race driver. He's a 500 champion. Ran second the very next year, almost won it 2 years in a row. He's won other races. We've seen him on top of things, and we know he can get the job done. And he tried to reset after mid-season, but right now a little bad luck struck him again.
Championship driver, Indy 500 champion, and an Indy 500 championship winning team, Davey. And I have every reason to believe they'll get that sort of.
They'll get it worked out. Absolutely. I mean, he's there for a reason. He does a great job. He's a really good driver. Just everything just has to go your way, and a little bad luck comes your way. Man, you can do all you can to overcome that, but sometimes it's difficult.
We talked about Colton Herta looking for a willing partner to work in traffic with, and he's trying to do just that at the halfway point of the back straightaway.
Yeah, really good run by him. He's at P1 right now as he goes into turn 3. He's trying that low line as well, coming off that final corner, coming down this front straightaway. Obviously, I think that is Malukas that he's behind right now. Hard to tell. They go by so fast you can't pick the numbers out, but Colton Herta finds himself on top, 182 flat in mile-an-hour range, and you got to remember that's about 8 miles an hour slower than they were running during the test. So far so good on slowing these cars down a little bit, and with the tires and the downforce level.
Alexander Rossi gives an idea that he's trying to still work that high groove in a little bit with that race car, although he gets it to the bottom of the racetrack through 3 and 4.
Yeah, he sure does. Nice line through there. Looks like everybody's pretty much the same. We'll watch him go down this front straightaway. He goes down into turn 1. A little bit of a low entry right there, down the bottom of that racetrack, as you just mentioned. A little bit of an early exit going down that back straightaway. Rossi getting all he can out of that car right now. He sits 14th on the speed chart.
Will Power crossing the start-finish line. He's got a clean entry into turn number 1.
Yeah, nice high entry. That's where you like seeing really high entry. Gets down, does that late apex, comes off that turn 2 down that back straightaway. As we say, straightaways don't last long because he's already into turn 3. Now turn 4 already back to this front straightaway. And when you're clipping laps in the 17-second range, man, it goes by quick. Those laps really click off quickly. And right now, Power's in that 8th position.
Here at Iowa, the goal is, if you're doing any qualifying sims, which they will in this extended session, Davey, I imagine one of the first things with everything that's going on here and all the conversation and all the changes, one of the first things they're going to look at is tire deck when they do those quality runs.
Yeah, for sure. And you just had Ion Power that last time by. Really, we talked about what a good line he has. Well, it was pretty good. He just went to P2 right now. Got ahead of Canapino, 181.4 miles an hour. So Will Scar, what did he say? Hey, I'm happy to feel good. I was feeling under the weather in Ohio. He said he felt good. He was excited to get in the car, and it shows that right now he's in P2.
A group of guys and gals that work about as hard as anybody does at a racetrack each and every week along the NTT IndyCar Series schedule. The folks of that paddock for Firestone. Michael Young has more on that.
Yeah, with Mark Williamson, crew manager. And basically, Mark, not only does he do the best tours of anybody that gives tours out here at the racetrack, but he's in charge of this crew that puts these tires on each and every one of these NTT IndyCar Series cars. Walk us through the process of when you get here to the track, you set up your tent, all this equipment is here. Walk me through from the beginning to the end of the weekend.
So basically, we get here on Wednesday. We set up our tent and all the machines that are underneath here. We come back on Thursday and we start mounting tires. So we will mount about 1,500 tires for this dual Iowa event. On this side, we're going to mount, and on this side over here, we're going to balance.
So when you how do the wheels get to you? Do the teams supply them? Walk us through that process.
Correct. So we own the tires. We lease the tires to the teams. The teams own the wheels. And the teams will bring the wheels over as soon as they park on Thursday, and they drop the wheels off, and we begin mounting right at that point.
So when they bring these wheels over, and then how do you keep track of who's what, where, how do you know all that?
So on each wheel, it's stamped from the team and a car number. So let's just say, for instance, there's a Penske 3. On the tire, we'll write 3, car number 3, and set number whatever it is.
So the car there, or should say the tire, then gets mounted to the wheel. Then they're balanced, and there's a little green marker that goes on the outside of the tire when it's done balancing. What does that green mark indicate?
So there are many different colors of marks. So basically, every employee here has a color, and that color represents us. So when we dot that tire, we're saying that we balanced it and we know that it's correct. If there's an issue, then I can go back to that color and say, hey, Mark, you did this incorrectly, and we can fix it.
As far as tire pressures go, when they roll out of here, do you leave them at the same tire pressure so everybody receives them the same way?
Yes. For the most part, the tires will beat up between 30 and 40 pounds of pressure. The teams release the dry air that we put into it, and then they'll put nitrogen into them.
So this whole entire process, your crew is still mounting tires to this very moment. From start to finish, how long does it take once you start mounting tires to get the entire weekend completed for all these teams?
I would say probably 12 to 15 hours.
That's amazing. And then when the race is over, obviously we don't throw these in a landfill. These tires actually are then repurposed.
Right, because they are leased, we get all the tires back. The teams take all their wheels back. We take the tires back to Indianapolis. They'll inspect them we'll send somebody to Akron where they'll inspect them. The rest of them get incinerated, and then that energy that fire creates is used for electricity.
What is your favorite part of your job?
Going home.
I think that might be safe for all of us, my friend. We appreciate everything that you guys do, and I know one of the unsung heroes, but you've been doing this such a long time, and you guys do such a fantastic job. We thank you for all you do.
Appreciate everything.
Thank you. That's Mark Williamson, crew manager for Firestone. And like I said, Mark, there's still 5-6 guys in here working mounting tires to this very moment.
He is the best. I love that line. What's the favorite part of your job? Going home. Yeah, I met him several years ago when I started doing tours for Barry Mendez at RPM Tours, and they provide such great insight to all those hospitality tours. And I'm telling you, folks, walk through the paddock when you get an opportunity to have access to it and watch them do their work. It's unbelievable what they do each and every weekend. And, of course, the last couple of years they've had Indy Next added to their plate.
That's right.
Well.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. When we come to these events, Mark, all of us that's on the radio, whether it's radio, TV, Firestone, Honda, Chevrolet, all these teams, it's a job. We're here, we work, and we put a lot of hours in. So when we leave here, we're on a weekend, but it's our full-time job these guys' full-time job that they don't stop here. They have to go home. They got to unload those tires. They got to load the new tires up for the next race. They got to travel back to the track. They got to do it all over again. When it's week in, week out, there's really no days off. So when he says when I get to go home, that means that he gets to spend the night in his bed, a couple nights in his own bed before he takes off for the next one.
Yep, and appreciate the insight. Good stuff from Michael Young and Mark Williamson and our good friends from Firestone. Colton Herta has gone to P1, Davey, 182.083.
Yeah, has that 182 mark down. We're about 8 miles an hour off where they're tested. So what they've seen to do with the downforce level and the tire that Firestone brought, seems like everything's on track and doing what it's supposed to be doing. How about Scott Dixon jumps in that second spot? Talked about him earlier, not having a victory here. Been in every race that's been at this track so far. His teammate Plo on our points leader in that third spot. We talked about power earlier. Not feeling too good at Mid-Ohio last week, and just kind of get through that weekend, but feeling good here. Feels like it's a track that he has opportunity at. Finds himself in P4, and then I like this. How about that Uncos Ollinger team with Canapino in that 5th position? We know the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of that team and that driver having to miss a race at Road America. America, comes back in, makes the next race. We talk about how good that team and that driver have become and how far up the charts are going. But another one, Graham Rahal, home race for him last week, found himself on top of the chart quite a bit in practice, but it just didn't, overlay into the race. Didn't have a great race, didn't have a great finish, but right now he's in P6 here at Iowa.
2014, Ryan Hunter-Reay was in the midst of winning 3 out of 4 years here at Iowa Speedway, and that's when some of the qualifying records were set, Davey. Scott Dixon, the 2-lap qualifying mark at 186.256, and the fastest lap was Elio Castro-Neves at 186.809.
Yeah, wow, and that was, well, we were running well under that track record last, few weeks ago at the test there. Now we're not close to that, which is a good thing. I think that it's about racing, it's about safety, it's about a lot of different things that puts on a good show for these fans. Why it makes IndyCar net racing, the best in the world. So we're not going to be quite that fast right now, but we're plenty fast when you're at 182 miles an hour, a little over 17 and a half seconds around this racetrack. Man, it's just blistering fast and a lot of work. And we look at that herd at Dixon Plo still in that top 3, but let's look who's struggling right now. And unfortunately right now, Ed Carpenter with only, looks like only 12 laps ran, and way off the pace at 173.265 miles an hour. So don't know if there's a problem at Ed Carpenter pit. It means there's not very many laps completed. Simpson is right in front of him, but he has 38 laps completed, quite a few at 173 miles an hour as well. Stingray Robb with 28 laps complete, 174. Then VK, another Ed Carpenter car. Maybe they just don't have a handle on the ovals like they normally do at 175 miles an hour.
Yeah, both of them right now find themselves behind Katherine Legge, who's back in the car for Chip Ganassi, Davey, and she's turned a lap at 175.4.
Actually, Dale Coyne, back in for Dale Coyne.
Sorry about that, Dale Coyne, yeah.
And then, I good job by her. Like I said, we just talked about it. I mean, this is her second time back in the car. Doesn't do it that often. Been out of the cockpit for a long time, actually. And then, another one that we're looking at in that 22nd position, Rosenquist. We talked about how he was always top 5 qualifying. If he wasn't top 5 qualifying first year, you didn't know what was wrong. He really had a great qualifying streak going there. Right now, seems to be struggling a little bit. We'll see where his teammate Malukas, a little bit quicker in that 17th position. We talked about that ride, still not having a solidified, solid driver for next year. But I tell you what, if I'm team owner, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign Malukas up. I think he's doing an outstanding job. I think him and Rosenquist are getting along really good, and they want to. They want a guy to get communication going. They got to get some stability in that team to be back on top. They got Elio Castro-Neves, part of that program as well. Another good driver that's seen it all, been with some of the best teams. Obviously, he's won 4 Indy 500s, knows how to get that job done as well. And so we'll see what happens there. But how about Newgarden? Just transferred that McLaren team. He's in that 18th spot. The car he's taken over is in 16th. Not a big gap between Rossi and Newgarden.
Watching Graham Rahal work his way through turn number 3, it looked like maybe he was going to run in traffic with Linus Lundqvist for a handful of laps, but Graham lifted just a little bit in a different livery, as he often is. And we look at the backstretch, we see Kiffin Simpson setting up for turn number 3. Below us, Kyle Kirkwood rolls by the start finish. Yeah,
Kirkwood, he's been running some laps as well, finds himself in that 13th spot. So you think, well, you look at the Andretti cars, one crashed, but then you got one in first. Yeah, actually, Ericsson did crash, but he's in that 9th position still after all these laps. He completed 3 laps that fast, and then his teammate now, Kirkwood, in that 14 laps, finds himself in that 13th spot. Seems like they're finding some speed there as well. Ferrucci, how about this? The AJ Foyt car in 8th position right now, 179.864 miles an hour. Ferrucci, he continues. He's in that top 10 a lot, and whether it's practice, race finishes, or the championship, just continues to get better and better in that AJ Foyt.
Interesting to note that, again, Nathan Brown, who covers the series for the Indianapolis Star, published a report in a long conversation with Bobby Rahal. It seemed to suggest that he would be perfectly content with Yuri Vips and Pietro Fittipaldi next year as Graham Rahal's teammate.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. We thought it was that where Rossi's going to end up over there, but I think they really have a good relationship with Vips. I think he did a good job when he was over here. Obviously, I think Lundgaard would have been in their car. They liked Lundgaard. They wanted him to stay in the car, but when he made that decision, when that chip fell, I think that Vips was high on their list. And how does hasn't been announced yet, but I think that they would be content with Vips to replace Newgarden for sure.
Yeah, we're watching cars now. We see David Malukas working with Augustin Canapino. He runs about a half a groove higher than him off of turn number 3. At what point, as he starts to pull up behind him into turn number 3, actually the gap widens a little bit, Davey. When you pull up on a car, at what point do you start feeling that air disrupt your car a little bit off that lead car?
It's really, when you get to about 10 car lengths, surprisingly, which is quite a ways, you start feeling that the car get lighter. It's still that disturbed air that you're into getting around there. Now, if you don't feel it, that's good news. And the closer you get to that car without really affecting yours, even though you feel the air and you feel the car moving around, but the closer you get with the car being stable still, that means you have a really good race car for these short track races.
Graham Rahal lifts a little bit along the pit road, and he lets Roman Grosjean pass by. We see Alexander Rossi. He has turned a handful of laps in this latest stint, and he returns to the pits. I tell you, guys, turning a lot of laps, and that's Will Power. It looks like he's got he's probably pretty happy with the way his race car is handling. He's been in the top 5 for most of the session. Yeah,
that's right. Continues in that 4th position. Want to watch Colton Herta as well. He's out there right now. Fast lap 182. Last time by 175. So his fastest lap was lap 3. Ironically, the same lap that Ericsson had his fastest lap 3. Lap 4 for Ferrucci. So it shows you early on these tires have a good lap, and then most of the teams or most of these drivers' fastest lap is 10 or below in mileage. So once it goes over that means the tires start wearing out. They start sliding around a little more. The DAG is playing into effect. So these numbers are probably going to stay here quite a while until these drivers put a new set of tires on, which we will see them do later on in this practice session with 51 minutes left.
Alex Palou, good looking paint scheme on that DHL machine this weekend. One of the things that Alex Palou talked about at Mid-Ohio, Davey, when he stole that pole right up from underneath Pato Award at the end of that session, he was already looking ahead to Iowa, knowing that he was going to have that first pit box.
Yeah, that's right. Got that first pit box. And by the way, when you say beat him, but at the closest qualifying in IndyCar history.
In the Firestone Fast 6 era.
I'm sorry, in the Firestone Fast 6 era. So pretty impressive with that. Seems like it just gets closer and closer. But you're right. He knows that he's going to be in that second pit stop, which is bent around that corner, and a pretty good advantage here on this oval.
I've watched Joseph Newgarden the last handful of laps, and as we mentioned his dominance here, he's currently 11th quick as he pulls up on the rear of one of the Aero McLaren cars off at turn number 4. That's the car of our most recent winner, Pato Award.
Yeah, that sure is. And as we watch Newgarden at 179.27 is his fast lap, a couple miles an hour off of Colton Herta, about 3 actually. His last lap by 175 on lap 24. How about this? Lap 35, we continue to talk about how tires may be good on their early stint, but Katherine Legge on lap 35 just sets her fast lap, puts her in that 12th spot, 178.5, right behind Joseph Newgarden. Don't know those may be new tires, not sure if they changed yet or not. Can't see from up here in our booth really very well if they have new tires on or not, but a really good run by her. Carpenter still struggling. Simpson, Robb, VK, all in that bottom half of the field, and Rosenquist, the slowest 5, all looking for speed. Matter of fact, Pato Award, you just talked about him, Mark, in that second pit stop, has a great pit location, but finds himself 22nd right now on the speed chart, just right behind Harvey. Scott
McLaughlin setting up for turn number 1. He's in the XPEL covers this weekend. He's coming off colors this weekend. He's coming off a strong finish at Mid-Ohio. We mentioned he finished on the podium there.
Yeah, nice podium finish for him, no question about it. Wants to keep that momentum going, wants to get on. He was a distant third, but you know what? Doesn't matter. It was a solid third, and he surprised me. I know you had a good eye on him and what he was able to do to slide, because he was back in the field, and every pit stop he made, he just continued to find his way farther forward. It seems like what that team does. What strategy? The great strategy, great engineer with that team. Really good combination, and we're watching him on the speed chart right now. I'm trying to find him actually on the speed chart. We know he's fast, but he's 16th right now with a 177.316.
New sponsorship and a new livery on the car for Joseph Newgarden, who's setting up for turn number 2, and somebody this weekend is probably going to misidentify that. It looks like an old school Target car.
I thought, okay, well, Scott Dixon has Target back, because I'll be the first to tell you that I definitely could not figure out who that was down in pit lane. I seen it was in a Penske stall. I go, who is that? Looks like Dixon pulled in a Penske stall with the old Target colors. But obviously, as you just said, new livery for Joseph Newgarden in that 11th spot right now. But we're going to miss misidentify it more than just that. That's for sure.
48 minutes remaining in this session, with a possible exception to the issue for Marcus Ericsson, but a relatively clean session. Although we'll see if the drivers feel that way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see just how many laps they're getting out of these tires. This new. We haven't talked to any driver yet on what this new aero package with this different tire, how it affects the cars differently from the practice session, how much better or worse it may be. Some may like it, some may not like it, but it's going to be interesting to see once they all come in and we get a chat with them.
And we should make mention that the install laps at that highlight practice, Davey, those tires not part of the set that they're allotted for practice and qualifying and preparation.
That's right. They have specific tires that you can run so many sets at a certain time. It changes from ovals to road courses and street courses, but you're correct. On this track, that's how they have to play the game.
So now what will you do in terms when you pull your car? You've got a checklist that you're going through in this practice session, okay? Now we know the configuration is a little bit different between qualifying and race setup. So what if you're working on race sims and then all of a sudden you want to come in and do a qualifying sim, what changes, if any, will they make to that car in the pit box before they send it?
Well, what you would like to be able to do, Mark, is trim the car out maybe just a little bit. Obviously, they've trimmed it some, and maybe they're to their max, so maybe, they're going to keep that thing loaded down, but you got to free it up as much as you can for those few laps. Really rely on those new Firestone Firehawk tires to give you that additional grip for qualifying. And the biggest thing, make sure the balance stays proper. The front's not sliding a little bit more than the back, and then you have good balance through that corner. And I think that's the key thing now. It's going to be all different. I wish, we kind of knew what they had last week where they said, hey, it was flat out, it was easy, it was really fast. We're in that 190 mile an hour range, and we knew that's what it was going to be. But now it's a completely different thing. They're going to be lifting during qualifying, and when they just want the balance to be right, and we're watching sometimes. How about Siegel right now? He got brought in obviously late with that Aero McLaren team. He's only drove in a few races for them, although he ran for coin as well. Did not make the 500, but ran a few other races in INDYCAR. Has a chance, gets hired full-time, and for, I think, a long amount of time with that Aero McLaren team. Finds himself 18th as that rookie, first time here in that INDYCAR. But you know what's impressive is his teammates, who's not a rookie. How about Rossi right behind him, and then Pato Ward in 23rd, several spots behind him. So that Siegel with that Aero McLaren team right now, he's the fastest out of those three drivers.
And let's go back to, I think, the far-reaching decision of his to bail on Indy Next and focus full-time on the NTT IndyCar Series. Don't blame him for that, because that is ultimately the goal. And when you're offered, an opportunity to run for, one of the most recognizable motorsports franchises in the world in McLaren. But I think what it did is it allowed us to kind of sit up and take notice of some, talented up-and-coming drivers in that series, most notably Kyle Collette.
How about Kyle Collette? Really good job by Kyle Collette doing it. I mean, how about earlier today, just the, a rookie coming here and was the fastest on the speed chart, going really fast. And you're right, it's always great to see the opportunities that these drivers, when they get them, and what they could do with it. And some of them, some great drivers. You can go listen to some of our past Indy Next races and hear some great names and great drivers that just didn't have a seat open up for them to have a chance over here.
Michael Young
talked about a guy who's pretty much done it all in the world of racing, Sebastian Bourdais. He sits on the pit box helping Kiffin Simpson. How did this relation begin with the two of you?
It started with this guy over there,
Chris Wheeler,
and Danielle's obviously my engineer from the KV days, and then last year in the Cadillac program. So just trying to help out friends, and then got to meet Kevin, and they thought I could help after St. Pete, so I guess I signed myself up.
There you go. How do you describe his improvement over 2024? He's really had some okay moments, but then a lot of bright spots as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of drinking from a fire hose, to be honest. It's just so much coming at him, and then also the fact that there's only 2 practices, sometimes like this one, only 1 before the race weekend really starts or qualifying begins. So it's really tough on rookies. We see it up and down pit lane, but he's just taking his time. He doesn't want to make any mistakes, and he really doesn't make any. So we can't blame him for anything. He's just learning and trying to be methodical about it. That's very much the way he functions. But we've seen really great race pace from time to time. So you kind of always wish that you'd start up front, because you get a feel that would stay there. but it's so competitive with the number of cars as well that it's very tricky.
Obviously, you were so dominant in Champ Car, 4-time champion. What type of open wheel advice can you lend a young driver that maybe you realized over the years in your career?
I mean, there's not a single driver that functions the same way. So it's really about understanding how everybody functions and trying to help in any way possible. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So, you also have to understand the limitations of what kind of coaching means, and you give your input and you try and listen to what they say and see if you can kind of bring up an explanation or suggestion that could help them find a solution to their problems. But it's always interesting to see how they grow and evolve, and obviously Dario is always there to mentor everybody, and I'm just kind of trying to stay attached to the four, but really get along very well with Linus as well. And when I can help anybody in the team, I do so as well. And this weekend Dario's not here, so
you're playing that role. There you go. Finally, you were such a great champion and were part of such a special team with Carl Haas and Paul Newman. Describe those magical times and what those two gentlemen meant to you.
Well, I mean, it was obviously very special to live those moments, but I think you really get to put the real value to those moments when they're behind you, and with quite a few years in between. And first of all, it was a great family that stayed together for 5 years when I was there. For the most part, it was the same group of guys, and yeah, it was just magical, to get to enjoy that much success. I think it was 31 races in 70-some race. It's pretty special, and like I said, you just don't get to realize how special it is until it's behind you.
Let you get back to it. Thank you for your time. As always great to see you.
Thank you.
Sebastian Bourdais, guys.
So you're Kiffin Simpson, and not only do you have the likes of Alex Palou and Scott Dixon as teammates, but you have the wealth of knowledge from Sebastian Bourdais and Dario Franchitti.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal. That explains why he's had the success he has now. We talk about Simpson going, hey, was he really ready to come from Indy next into IndyCar? And then we thought, hey, he's just being quiet, not making any big mistakes. And then all of a sudden we see him towards the top of the chart sometimes in the middle of the fields. I think he did a pretty darn good job. But then, like you just mentioned, he's with Ganassi. pretty nice place to be. And then obviously when you have Dario and Bourdais, two great guys to help you out.
But I think he touched on coaching that, quite frankly, covers not only motorsports but across a variety of sports. And it's why sometimes over the years that if you're a really good Major League Baseball player, that doesn't always mean you're going to translate into being a good coach or a manager.
That's right.
Same thing in football or basketball or the stick and ball sports, because what worked for Sebastian Bourdais might not work for Kiffin Simpson, and I think he alluded to that as with the challenges of coaching these young guys.
Yeah, that's right, because sometimes every driver's a little bit different. Every driver has a different style. Then you think, okay, like I had Gary Bittenhausen, fortunate enough to help me at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we had some things the same, but he was there. What helped me, even though I think our driving style was a bit different, or things had changed a little bit in the cars, that what he told you was true knowledge, and it was that knowledge that whether you use it 100% the way he mentioned it, but you put it in your mind and think, okay, that's how you go about that. That's how you get confidence. That's how you get up to speed. There are always those little things that you picked out of that. And Gary, what a character. When you...
There's only one.
I think when he was driving, the all-time favorite is when he has a piece of hose out of his helmet smoking a cigarette in pit lane there, right? I mean, he was only one Gary Bittenhausen, but boy, was he was bad to the bone and proved how good he really was, no matter what kind of car he could get in, and obviously still miss him today.
39 minutes remaining in this session. Santino Ferrucci continues to find pace, especially over the second half of this season. He was P1 for a while at 182.273. Scott McLaughlin, who we've been watching, has now gone to P1 at 182.478. So your top five: McLaughlin, Ferrucci, Herta, O'Ward, and Alex Palou.
Yeah, it hasn't changed much from third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. The only difference is two guys shot in front of him, as you just said. McLaughlin, Ferrucci, both Chevrolet-powered cars, both Penske Penske engineered cars, by the way. So looking really good, finding that 182. All in that 182 range, beats the top 4, and then Plo just close to it at a high 181. But Powers falling down a little bit. But I'm still impressed with Fittipaldi, Rahal, that team, that 9th and 10th position, still feel pretty strong. Now, have to keep track of when the new tires are going to go on these cars, and that's going to be a big, because you know they're going to do a qualifying simmed run with those new tires. We did see Graham Rahal, actually, who just falls down a little bit more as Rossi shoots that 7th spot out of his car already. Don't know if he's done for the session or not with 38 minutes left.
Interesting thing about Dixon, Rossi, and Power, it seems like every time I look at timing and scoring, those guys are set up around 5th, 6th, or 7th. Does that tell us that perhaps they're working on and have achieved their goal of having a good race car?
I think that could be, because right now I think what we're seeing is that everybody's been doing race runs and getting car balance, because Rossi, I'm almost going to promise you that he just put new tires on. He put it to P1, 182.519 in that McLaren car, just ahead of McLaughlin and Ferrucci. So we see speed starting to come up right now. Some of the car drivers that didn't have speed are finding it right now, and I have to think that's partial to some new tires.
And in terms of, if you want to look at the setup now and how it might translate into qualifying, as we see Alex Below go to P1 at 185.333. It's about 3 miles per hour.
Yeah, 3 miles an hour ahead of second quick. So it goes to show you that the new tires are going on there, finding the balance of these race cars. And I'll be honest with you, Plo, we know that he has that DHL sponsorship, but he, it's green last week, it's yellow this week. He's another one. I've been looking at the green car thinking that's him, but that's his teammate, not him. So it's tough to find out who everybody is.
Rossi's gone to P2, by the way, at 182.519. Graham Rahal currently 11th quick. He turned 27 laps. His fastest, Michael Young, 180.594. How about a debrief?
Yeah, 11th quick right now, Graham, but you're out of the car, and you got one of your crew guys in the car. Is there an issue?
Yeah, we think a logger box failed, which controls all the sensors in the car, and so unfortunately with these cars nowadays, there's a lot of things tied into that, and so we had a lot of issues there in that last run, just with things popping up, and car wouldn't regenerate on the hybrid and some other stuff, and it's all tied to this. So unfortunately that means I got to get out. You got to pull the seat out. The logger box is underneath the driver, so let's hope it's that, because you don't want to go the rabbit hole of too many electronic issues, particularly with the tight turnaround here. So we'll see.
You talked about the hybrid. How is it thus far here in Iowa?
Oh, I mean, I think it's it's good. It has a bit of an effect because of the fact we're lifting as much as we are, but we'll see. There's a lot of different variations. You can hit it for a little bit every corner. You can hit it just one shot down the front straight. So everybody's going to have a different preference, so we'll see.
1 line, 2 line, how are the tires in this downforce combination?
Yeah, I mean, tires seem good. Harder for sure. That right side's wearing a lot less. I think they need me. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Downforce may be a little light.
Okay, there you go. Graham Rahal sounds like they have those problems fixed. Of course, those gremlins, you never, to his point, ever want them to pop up, because once you have an electrical issue, it's hard to run it down. So Graham Rahal getting ready to hop back in that one pure Honda for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing.
Yeah, from there, Davey, I would say that they would probably, if that weren't it, they'd probably have to look to the ECU. And then after that, Davey, that's when you're kind of chasing your tail a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be careful. Don't want to get too many changes, too many things, and get, like I say, down that rabbit hole. And we watch Will Power on board right now. Pretty interesting. He is in that, where is Power? In that 9th spot right now. I see him working on his car. But got in behind one of the McLaren cars and wasn't willing to go in that second group and go around him, hadn't held him up. And then once they both got going, he wasn't able to pull it off.
So anything that you're seeing that might indicate that second groove is coming in? Or
right now, I just don't see it. And I think it's a situation where I don't know that just rubber itself will help. I think it's a track prep solution that needs to go up there to get the rubber down. Not not expert at that either, but I just know that it seems to work better than just actually tire rubber. Because right now what happens is when you're out there by yourself, everybody's going to take that preferred line and just going to rubber that bottom end better than the outside still and leave it where it's a single
But
group.
we got some guys going to try it.
Oh, you got to try it.
Yeah.
And the good thing is with this track, you're going to be in traffic. You're going to be inside, outside. You're going to have to, when you catch up to lappers, you're going to have to be able to go up there. So, I hope that it grooves into where at least it's the same speed, where it's maybe not an advantage to go up there, but you can go up there to pass.
Hunter Ray did it in one of his wins, I believe. Joseph did it in one of his wins when we got a late caution, and they decided to come to pit road for fresh Firestone Firehawks, and they were bringing a gun to a knife.
Oh, man, it was unbelievable how much faster they were just driving around, guys. Now, don't know now the tires that they had, previously here. Deg wasn't much, so that probably wouldn't make that big of a difference. But maybe with this harder tire, we'll just have to wait and see. Now we can look and say, okay, well, Dixon just shot up to 183 miles an hour, puts himself in P2. Canapino also 183. He's now in P3. Herta in 4th, Rossi in 5th. So maybe it's showing that these new tires are worth 3 or 4 miles an hour.
Now, it's not 4 laps at the Indy 500. There is nothing anywhere like that anywhere in the world. But let's face it, it's still a challenge to put 2 very good laps together here.
Because they both count, and it is very challenging because it happens so fast, and you mess up 1 lap, or the worst thing to do is mess up your first lap coming off 4, because you lose momentum, and then both laps aren't good. So, but both laps count.
Better not mess up your second lap, because that affects your starting position on Sunday.
Second race, that's right. That's your second race. So you want both good laps, and that's how you line up. Now, more than not, most of the time, the first race and the second race start the same, but we always see that somebody's off, misses a lap, or doesn't get a good first lap in, and it mixes around. But both laps mean everything here.
No morning warm-up on an oval, no late afternoon warm-up tomorrow. There won't be one on Sunday, as we suggest. And so, you hear what Graham Rahal had to say, and, they may not know about the effectiveness and the efficiency and the ability to use that second group, Davey. They may not know until they get to the green flag tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it seems like we're here all day long. We have been here all day long. A lot of track time, but it really isn't, because we're trying to get it between Indy Next and IndyCar and trying to figure out a lot of different things. We go into qualifying soon, about half hour after the session ends for Indy Next. Then we come in tomorrow for qualifying for IndyCar, then the Indy Next race. We stay very busy when we're here these weekends, but it's still, they would like to have another session for each of these series. I guarantee every driver would like to have another practice, whether it's a final practice before the race or another warm-up before qualifying.
Well, any folks that are here, any folks that are listening that are coaches of football, basketball, and baseball, they'll all tell you the same thing, Dave. You just can't have enough practice.
Yeah, it's all about that, right? I mean, that's how the teams get better. That's how the drivers get better. Confidence gets built up. It's laps as we watch some on-track action right now. And that is, it looks like the Scott Dixon car, we'll say it again, but that is Newgarden, as we see Siegel going underneath him down this front straightaway.
And we do want to remind those of you that are here listening to us on PA that this fan-free Friday, free Friday for the fans, we should say, a lot of activity still to come, Davey. There's pit stop competition, your chance to walk the track, go into the paddock, your chance to meet drivers. That's really cool autograph session, and a lot of activity is going to go on because there's still track activity, because when we're done, we will qualify for Indy Next. And then following that, that's when all the fan festivities get underway.
That's right. And actually right now, for the fans that are not watching this at 4 o'clock to 4:30, which it's almost getting ready to end right now, it's the Indy Next driver autograph sessions going on right back there. So there's on-track activity. There's a lot of off-track activity. Plo shoots himself to the top, as we talked about earlier, that 185.5. At that point, it was 3 mile an hour faster, second quick. Now it's Pato Award at 184.1. Scott Dixon, Canapino, and Lundqvist jumps up into that top 5.
Wouldn't you think that it would be good for the series overall? And I guess I don't want the other 25 drivers to think that we're not happy for them when they do well, because we are. But boy, let's face it, Davey, how good would a good rivalry between Alex Palou and Pato Award, if that were to develop? That'd be huge for the series.
Yeah, no, and I think it could be happening. Obviously, a rivalry could be in several different forms, but just an on-track competition, those two seem to be fighting out. Obviously, last week they finished first and second, and they qualified first and second. They're first and second right now, and it's going back and forth. So it's a healthy competition right now. We love to see that, but as they're battling battling out. Don't worry. Those drivers behind him are trying to figure out, hey, what do we got to do to beat both those guys?
Two very talented, charismatic young drivers for sure. And I thought last weekend was interesting, and I told a couple of people this in the debrief. We talked about it. Michael Young and I did on the way home. I thought was interesting about what made for a really good storyline is the fact that Below grabbed the top spot in qualifying at the very last second. And then let's face it, Pato O'Ward pretty much flipped that script on race day.
That's right. Flipped that script on race day and did what he had to do. Hats off to that team. They don't have a lot of wins. Below does. I mean, he's another one that's so young, and you look at the championships and wins that he has, it's like, how can he do that so quick? But what a talent. Obviously, been a controversy between him and Aero McLaren as well. And at one point, he was going to go over there. Don't know all the behind-the-scenes things. Hopefully, the lawsuits are all going to be dropped, and that's not going to go any farther and let these guys go race. And both McLaren and Chip should be happy with who they have.
Well, that about-face that he did has been brought up on more than one occasion by folks at Aero McLaren this year when asked about the revolving door, the revolving seats at their race team. Yeah. They all point back and say that's where it kind of started. Yeah, that's where it started. I mean, well, obviously, Plo didn't have any confidence because he feels like, there were drivers that said, hey, we're going to be in for the year. And the next race we come to, they're out, and there's somebody else in. And then we thought Rossi was a solid, gunner for that team for a long term, and then he's out. So, yeah, you got to. It's been crazy. Yeah, it's really crazy. Everything about it. Yeah. I mean, it's been, and we talked a little bit earlier with our good friend David Land about the quote-unquote silly season. Well, if you're looking at the silly season in its entirety in this series, it seems to run from January through December. Yeah, well, I remember last year you go, can you believe we're at the first race in St. Pete and the silly season's already started? We haven't even got to the first race. Well, it's been silly since that point, and that's been a year ago. So, it definitely happened. Well, you can go back even further. Remember how early the announcement when Rossi first went to Aero McLaren and left Andretti. that happened just shortly after St. Pete. That's right. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, we kind of felt that one coming. I think that, I don't know what all went on there, but you just kind of seen that things got, things were wearing out over there. Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's just time to move on. It's nothing personal. It's just business. And before it becomes personal, it's best to move on. Scott McLaughlin goes back to P1. He leapfrogs over Alex Palou. Razor thin margin, 185.891 for Scott McLaughlin. Alex Palou at 185.536. Pato O'Ward is third fastest at 184.154. Scott Dixon, Augustin Canapino complete the top five. Linus Lundqvist, he's had a pretty good practice session. He is currently sixth fastest. Colton Herta seventh. Rosenqvist eighth. Alexander Rossi ninth. Santino Ferrucci spent some time at the top. He has slipped back to 10th. David Malukas, rock solid, just like last weekend. He's currently 11th. Will Power is down to 12th. Pietro Fittipaldi, Davey has pointed him out throughout the course of this session. Still looking pretty good at 13th fastest. Nolan Siegel, quality day for him so far. The rookie is 14th. Quick Graham Rahal hopes to have the electrical gremlin solved. He is currently 15th fastest. Kyle Kirkwood 16th. Joseph Newgarden 17th. Christian Lundgaard is 18th, 19th. Marcus Ericsson, again, he turned but 3 laps, and at the time he'd worked his way into the top 5. He made contact with the outside retaining wall off of the turn number 4, between 3 and 4. He's okay. We talked to him after he was checked out at the Infield Care Center. Next up for them will be qualifying. Jack Harvey, 20th quick. Marcus Armstrong, 21st. Romain Grosjean, 22nd. Rinus VeeKay, 23rd. Katherine Legge, 24th. Stingray Robb is 25th fastest. And Carpenter, 26th fastest. And Kiffin Simpson right now is 27th fastest. And Davey having some trouble getting that car sorted out, apparently, because Kiffin Simpson, while he's 27th fastest, has turned 74 laps in this session. Yeah, not where we thought he'd be right now. Obviously, just not comfortable with this racetrack. But then you got Ed Carpenter. Loads of experience right in front of him in that 26th spot. Not very far apart on speeds either. Now, you got to look at something. They're 26th to 27th at 173 and 174. Stingray Robb's 25th, but he's 3 mile-an-hour quicker than them. So those two teams really, our drivers' teams, whatever, are lacking. Now, you got to remember, Simpson has some teammates, by the way, that right now sit 2nd and 4th on that speed chart, and, by the way, 8th on that speed chart. So he's going to have to go back to that garage, or Armstrong, another teammate hits. I forget he has 4 of them. He's in that 21st part, and we got a turn 4 incident, one slide, and that's Katherine Legge. Almost sure that's Katherine Legge, right?
there. Yes, it is. Doesn't look like contact at this point. Didn't see it happen. Car looks fine. Looks like maybe just a spin. Katherine Legge finds herself 24th quickest at a 178.526 miles an hour.
And that's just the second caution of this session, which has been relatively clean all in all.
Yeah, it really has been. And like I said, it looks like no contact there. We'll see a replay. Hopefully nothing, no harm, no foul, but just got that car running. And by the way, I'm impressed with Katherine, just how fast she got up to speed, though. I mean, she got out there and got right after it. I mean, I know she's down on the charts right now. Her teammate Harvey's in that 20th spot. She's in 24th. But she did a good job by getting up to speed. Obviously, just a little free coming off. And as I look at that car, Mark, unless you see something, it looks pretty darn good to me.
It would have to be on the driver's side.
Yeah,
I should say it would have to be on the left side, we should say.
Yeah, and it looks good. Looks like a quick jack's going to come out. Here we got the replay. Oh, there she trying that second groove out, actually. One of the few ones didn't. It got up there, just the car slid up the racetrack, turned around, she got on the brakes, did not hit anything, actually quite a ways away from Rahal, did a really good job, but she was the first one that we've really seen out there trying to go on the outside of a car in that second groove, and it just did not work out for her.
Yeah, that was almost trying out a third groove in that area.
Yeah, and by the way, guess who she was trying? No, I guess that was Colton Herta coming up on her right now. See some in-car right there, can't see who she was on the outside of, but gave it a legit shot, trying to get on the outside of somebody, just didn't work out for her.
Yeah, and that's where those spotters who are right above us, Davey, come in so handy.
Yeah.
Give those drivers a heads up.
Give them a heads up. That's exactly right, and that's good news. And then we'll see. Oh, that was actually Newgarden that was on the bottom groove. She went on the outside, as you said. The car slid up a little bit. Don't know if there just wasn't grip in that second groove. Had her slide into that third groove, but when she lost grip, she was able to stay on the power, actually, and keep that car turning where it just turned around and come to a stop. So the only thing that harmed was a set of Firestone Firehawk tires.
Last weekend, those race teams, a lot of them had spotters set up in a couple of locations in Mid-Ohio. Albeit the keyhole there down at the entrance to turn number 4 to driver's left. I would say that while certainly that they had plenty to do and plenty to talk about at Mid-Ohio, they're always a little busier here at Iowa.
Yeah, they are. You know, one good thing is a smaller track. They don't have to travel so far around it, and then they really can get on top of when they have incidents like this. Right now they have turned around. They have a tow strap on that car. Very good at getting that done. The safety workers are getting in that. They're going to pull her around. They're going to take her right on pit lane, so it doesn't require a hook or anything, and she's going to be able to come right back on pit lane, and yeah, it's going to only be about a minute before they're ready to go back to green flag racing.
Yeah, getting one more look at that area into turn number 4, Katherine Legge, and got in very, very high.
Yeah, very high down there. And like I say, she started on the second groove, but the car just slid up. And then when it got into that third groove, just too much. Just couldn't hang on to it. And making a sharp turn right now, getting it on. It looks like the safety guy's not taking the truck very fast. AMR, in the kind of a new little tricky area on this short track, and have to slow down and get that the rope so it doesn't tangle up in her car. Doing that right now. She is on pit lane, and momentarily going to be in her pit, and we're going to go green again.
Spent a couple of minutes in the hotel lobby last night with a couple of the veterans of that. Of course, Tim Botman heads that crew up, and Doug Allen been with him for a number of years, and both of those guys, I tell you, that entire crew, all those guys and gals, the absolute best of what they do.
Love it, man. And let me tell you what, as a driver, and even now, when you come to these racetracks, and when you would get in that race car, you know you had the best people possible. It looked like the wing. Oh, no, I take that back. It was just the way it's painted. It looked like it was rubbing the tire, but it's not the case. But when you get in the car, know if something happens, you have the best people there. And just us up here talking about them right now, man, we're so fortunate to have the best in the business. And they are dedicated to what they do. They're dedicated to make sure these drivers stay safe. And, boy, how fast they get the cars on and off this racetrack when there's issues. Right now, we're just over 20 minutes left, 20 and a half minutes left of the session. They're going to see cars firing up. Momentarily, that green's going to drop.
Well, one of the things that is that people continue to be fascinated by, that are kind of new to the sport, don't get a chance to watch races a lot, or one of the things that they point out, Davey, when they watch other forms of racing, is just how quickly they arrive on the scene when there's an incident.
Yeah, no, and that's so important, right? Because you just don't know the condition of the driver. Now, we ran into a thing that was brought up in Laguna Seca, where it got a little bit confusing there because of we had a car go off track fairly hard, bounced around, slid across the track, almost got hit by cars. cars, but slid off. We're talking Armstrong, who slid off in a safe area. They did not throw the yellow flag, which surprised all. We're going, hey, it was a yellow flag. He went from one side of the track to the other. A bunch of cars just missed him, but they missed him. They felt that he was in a safe position. And any time now, we learned that when you spin off course and the pit stop sequence is in play right then, so it doesn't leave somebody really disadvantaged or advantaged, and they're in the same place, they will not throw that yellow flag till everybody has the opportunity to pit. You agree with it, you don't agree with it, and my situation is I don't know that I do because the safety is so important, but as long as it's the same every time and the same for everybody, it all works out. But I remember one time, and that was our good friend Justin Wilson in Mid-Ohio. He just went off the course in turn one, went off, hit the grass, bounced around a little bit. We think no big deal. They leave him out there. They don't throw the yellow. He's sitting there with it. Remember, if you recall, it broke him back. You know, he hit that access road, and the tub hit that. He can't breathe. He can't talk. They think he's safe. He's out of the way, which he was, but we had a broken back. So, you know, I don't know. That's not my decision. That's race control. I mean, there's different situations all the time, but it can. And everyone wondered, well, how Newgarden? The Newgarden was the one that benefited. He was the one that
benefited from it initially, but it did not end up working out well for him at the end of that.
That's right. He kind of gave it up, but they're all going, hey, it's Penske in series, it's Penske go track. That's not the case. Let me just reintroduce that it's supposed to be the same for everybody. It just happened to be Joseph Newgarden that was the one that really benefited from it, but that's how the rule plays. Now on an oval, that could be a little different, Mark, because you're pretty much in a danger spot anywhere you spin out an oval, most generally.
Michael Young, you were in the pit box of Katherine Legge when they brought that car back to the pit.
Yeah, she's already out. There was no damage, just for a flat spot at Firestone Firehawk tires. So they strapped on a U set. It looked like her first stint in this practice session, the set that she used for that. She's back on those, but they looked really good. No wear on them. So Katherine is already back out on track.
Augustin Canapino just crossed the start-finish line. Katherine Legge is turning laps at the bottom of the racetrack. We see 4 cars going by her at speed. Potawatomi Ward, now she runs about a half a groove higher, and that causes Potawatomi Ward is long gone, but it caused Alex Palou to have to lift, Davey, and he was hanging on for dear life. He about got into that turn 2 wall.
Yeah, he really did, and there's a line of cars right now. So one thing that's happening right now, just letting you know, the pit stop, open pits are open. My meaning is that you can come in and do an open pit stop practice coming in, and for these teams to practice or stops, it's open right now. But then also, it's time. I mean, we're looking at race sims right now. I mean, a lot of these drivers out there saying, what's our car going to do in long runs? What's our tire we're going to be? And that's what we're seeing right now. A lot of cars making laps with each other out there.
Regis VK is out turning laps in tandem with Stingray Robb. They are trying to chase down Alex Palou. We see the car of Alexander Rossi now as Regis VK has decided that enough is enough for now. Alexander Rossi makes that familiar dive between 3 and 4, gets the left side below the white line. Pietro Fittipaldi running just behind him. It appears as though, Davey, the electrical gremlins that idled Graham Rahal for more than a handful of laps have been solved because he's entering turn 3.
Yeah, which is, as Graham said, that box is underneath the driver's compartment. That's where it's kind of hid away underneath there, so he had to get out. But fortunately for him, like I said, hopefully that was the problem, so they're not chasing something around. It looks like they have it fixed. He is back up to speed, by the way, so everything looks good for Graham.
Joseph Newgarden turning laps. We also see Felix Rosenqvist working in traffic, one of the Hukos Holliger's car. We haven't talked much about Felix today. He's been turning laps and trying to get that car dialed in. He's been in the top 15 for most of the day. Currently finds himself 8th fastest.
That's right. Doing a good job. Matter of fact, that Hukos Holliger car, that was Canapino, backed up, trying to get some clean racetrack. Meanwhile, Katherine Legge made a few laps after that spin, comes back in. They do a hot stop for her. She'll practice some race stops for her as she sends back down pit road.
Yeah, we watched Marcus Armstrong come off of turn number 2, and he will get to that pit road entry point, which is turn number 3, and we'll see if his crew goes through the paces of the hot stops as we look across the way. And we see Christian Lundgaard coming to the attention of his crew. Looks like they're going to add some fuel and just take a rather pedestrian look-see of that car. I'd say he and Grosjean are 2 of the fortunate ones, Davey, if you can't get that first pit box, because they're among those that are pitted that either coming to or going away from an opening, and that really makes your in and out a lot cleaner.
Yeah, that's right. So, the best pit stop or spot you want is the first one. After that, the second one, I mean, it's a bend down. There's a little difficult, but that's a good one. But you just mentioned, anytime there's an opening in the wall, which there's 2 of them here, it's always good to be in front of that or behind that, just because it's easy in or an easy out. With 2 of them, like say, Rosenquist has one and Armstrong has one. It looks like Newgarden, and it looks like that it would be Grosjean have some really good pit spots. But the disadvantage is that they are farther back on pit lane. It can get congested down there. But another good thing about these openings, they're beyond the start-finish line. So you got to remember the start-finish line goes all the way across the pit lane. And so when you come in, you want to make sure you click that lap off just in case the yellow is to come off and you're ahead of the start-finish. As we see a close call right there, looks like between Newgarden and okay, yeah. If you can picture that car out, Mark, it looks like old.
Might have been Newgarden and Power. It might be his teammate Will Power.
That could be Will Power. We'll see when he comes around right now. But it looks like a close call going down into turn 1. And yes, you did hit nail on the head. That is the Verizon car of Will Power.
So Will Power lifts and then gathers it back in by the time he enters turn 1. And so Joseph Newgarden is long gone now, setting up for turn number 4. And Davey, you see the replay.
Seeing the replay right now. Oh, wow. They really got close to each other. I think that Newgarden, he was committed to go low. And I think that, honestly, the situation, Power, he was just going to stay low and try to maybe get out of his way right there. But I think Newgarden already committed to go low. That was a tough, tight one right now. Both those teammates need to get going because their other teammate, he's P1. That's McLaughlin.
And we just got a look at the in-car camera over the head of Joseph Newgarden. He showed some quick hands there.
Yeah, he sure did. No question about it. No surprise on both sides. And I think that Newgarden, Power thought he was going to go on the outside of him, and he went on the inside. And spotters got to talk quick. We do have spotters, you say, right above us, right above our booth, but that happened so fast. Newgarden definitely had some quick hands to get by.
Augustin Canapino continues to impress. He is 5th fastest now with 13 minutes remaining in the session. McLaughlin, Palou, O'Ward, Dixon, Canapino, your top 5, the fastest so far, 185.891 miles per hour. Linus Lundqvist currently 6th quick, Colton Herta 7th, Graham Rahal is 8th, Felix Rosenquist is 9th, and Alexander Rossi is 10th. Santino Ferrucci 11th fastest, David Malukas, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power through 14th, Nolan Siegel 15th fastest, Fittipaldi 16th, Kirkwood 17th, Lundgaard 18th, Grosjean is 19th. Ericsson, as we mentioned, had an incident early in the session, turned only 3 laps, 20th quick. 21st is Harvey, 22nd Armstrong, 23rd VK, 24th Legge, 25th Robb, 26th Simpson, and 27th Carpenter. Right now, Ed Carpenter Racing is struggling. Davey Reed is VK 23rd, Ed Carpenter 27th.
Wow, isn't that something? Really struggling where they used to have the ovals. When they came to oval, you can count on that Carpenter team being really fast and being on top of it. But right now, don't know how to talk to him, but struggling. Both, as you said, both cars struggling as VK. They make a small change on his car. He shoots back out onto the racetrack. It looks like they are currently working on Ed Carpenter's car as he sits on pit lane.
Yeah, just a handful of drivers turning laps right now. About 7 or 8 cars right now working their way around Iowa Speedway. Scott Dixon, we've seen him turn, 10, 12, 14, 15 laps, and then make adjustments of the car in the pit box, and then go back out, turn another 13, 14 laps. And, it looks like Scott Dixon, if he chooses to use this as an opportunity for a qualifying sim, Davey, we were going to say he had some clean green racetrack by which to do it, but he's already encountering traffic at turn number 4.
Yeah, sure is. On the outside of Armstrong, his teammate coming out right now, and behind that's that Stingray Rob. No, I think that is Power again in front of him. So there's a lot of traffic. It's hard to tell these cars apart. We got to get used to them because they go by so darn fast. They're hard to see, to be really honest with you. Look at Katherine Legge. She did a few hot stops. We talked about her. She is now in her pit and out of the car. So looks like their practice session's done for the day.
Consecutive lap averages, the best that we've seen so far, Davey. Alex Palou, 181.73. Scott Dixon at 179.83. Colton Herta at 177.35. Augustin Canapino at 177.11. And oddly enough, we looked down there. We see 5th fastest. The 2 laps belong to the car of Rita's VK.
Yeah, we were just talking about it at Carmen. So that's also a situation. I remember having a car in Las Vegas one time. I said, hey guys, the car just didn't feel good. I didn't qualify that great. It just didn't feel that good. I get in the race. I say, let's switch cars because I just didn't feel that car had it. They go, we got to start in the back of the field. I go, it's worth it. This car's not good. So we took off, and then my backup car started in the back of the field. And the first thing I called into the team going, hey, I got good news and bad news. The good news is there's nothing wrong with that other car because this one's terrible too. But they came back on, Mark, and as I went, I was driving to the front. I didn't have a car that was very good in that short run, but in the long run, I didn't lose any speed, just like we can maybe see what VK's doing here as we see him right now. As you just mentioned, he's way down on the charts. Well, he did move up a little bit. VK, he's now 13th, so he didn't move up. But then the long distance car was good. It didn't fall off on speed. Yeah. So you definitely have that as well.
Yeah, Rita's VK has been mired around in 22nd, 23rd for most of this day. But just like that, Davey pops into the 13th position. We've seen a couple of other drivers move up. Linus Lundqvist among those who worked his way into the top 10.
Yeah, that's right. 7th position right there. Those Canapino's still really doing good. How about Malukas shooting up to that 4th spot right now? Really good job by Malukas. Yeah, just doing a really, really good job. And it looks to me like everybody's pretty solid. Oh, we've got a little bit of action right down here too. Oh no, it's that's Ferrucci and his friend Grosjean still battling around. But although I don't see either one did anything problem, I think Ferrucci tried to go around the outside of him. The room was there, but he just got too high. And someone like Katherine Legge did not have contact with the wall, but just no grip on that second roof.
Once we wrap this session up, we'll have about a 20-minute break or so, and then at the bottom of the hour, we'll have complete coverage of Indy Next qualifying as they get set to go racing tomorrow, and then a very busy day, 1 o'clock local time, 2 p.m. Eastern, the Indy Next race, and then IndyCar qualifying for race 1 and 2 at 2:45, and those guys that are short track fans like Davey Hamilton will be happy with that format that results in you qualifying and racing all on the same day and racing on Saturday night. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. Saturday night action, gotta love it, and under the lights, and then come back and do it again on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, it's gonna be. I love 2-day weekends. I love doing that. Whether it's the weekends are made to race, and it's always good to throw a couple of them in while you're doing it.
I know conventional wisdom tells you, and I mean everybody feels this way. I mean you don't want to put your team through a lot of work. We'll talk more about this, the mindset from Saturday night to Sunday with a quick turnaround time. After we hear from Katherine Legge, 24th fastest. Michael, what are her thoughts after being back in the car for Dale Coy?
Well, before we talk about your thoughts, happy birthday. 24 now?
Yeah.
Just 24. Obviously, the spin out there a moment, but the spun out there had a moment, but way high, just looked like you got in the marbles. Is that what happened?
Kinda. It was definitely a squeaky bum moment, that's for sure. I was going around the outside of another car. I think it was Christian, not really sure. And just as I kind of sucked down to the outside on him, they just kind of wiggled high and understeered up into the marbles, and I didn't want to counter steer and hit the wall. So I kind of just did a little bit and tried to do a big drift, but in the end ended up turning it around, but without damage. So I feel like no harm, no foul. It was a lesson learned for the race, honestly, because obviously you can't. He was just out of the pits. There was nothing he could do. He couldn't disappear. And I was on a simulated Q run, so I thought, I'll just go around him like we did first thing, when we were trying to rubber in the high line. But there was no using that line. For us at least, I don't think it's going to be possible.
We have a caution for the 78. We're with Katherine Legge. So the situation out there, can you explain as far as the tire wear goes, kind of how it feels?
Yeah, there's not as much deg as I thought there might be. Our car is actually really good, deg-wise. It's just, I think the difficulties come when you've got the extremes of people on stint old tires and then going for simulated Q runs here. I think that's a big difference, but the deg doesn't feel like it's that much every lap. It's just a little bit, but then you really get to see it when you're trying to go around somebody. And as you've seen, I think everybody who's tried to go around anybody at speed has got a little high. The 14 car just had an amazing save, my new hero. So it's going to be an interesting race, that's for sure.
One, but 2, and we're looking forward to seeing you back. So happy birthday. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Always great to see her. Katherine Legge here in the 51 crew for Dale Coyne Racing.
Yeah, thanks, Michael Young. Caution on the course, a single car spin. Augustin Canapino, Davey, and his teammate narrowly missed him.
Oh, yeah, so what happened is Canapino coming up on the back of Will Power, had speed on him, got within a couple car lengths, and just took that airway, turned him around. He spun around and then came back out of the pits, by the way, and then just absolutely almost got his teammate, which not his fault. They both got by, and then as he comes in the pits, actually I'm watching it. I think Scott Dixon's pits up here. I think Scott got his pits mixed up. I think he was going to the thought he was turning to the Aero McLaren pit, and it was not his pit. So when he turned in, he seen his guys in orange going, "Oh, that's not my guys."
Right.
And so, and they it was small, light touch, but I think Dixon he waved at the guys, go, "Oh, hey, thanks, man. Sorry about that, wrong pit." So yeah.
Well, they were nice enough to stay out there and get the quick jack.
Yeah, they got the quick jack up, got him out of the way after Siegel came in, and then got Scott back in his spot as he just leaves pit lane.
So Katherine Legge is added to our vocabulary and our vernacular because we can refer to spins now, Davey, as a squeaky bum moment, I think.
Yeah, I guess that was a spin. Yeah. I don't think anybody will use that at Knoxville.
You used that a lot in the modified, didn't you?
Yeah,
you had a lot of squeaky bum moments.
It wasn't that one. There were some things said, but it was a little. It had to do with squeaky and bum, but it was in a different form.
Yeah. 4 minutes remaining in this session, and Scott McLaughlin continues P1 at 185.891. Then Pillow, Award, Malukas, Dixon, the top 5. Canapino, Lundquist, Herta, Power, and Graham Rahal, the top 10. It's her birthday.
Yeah, that's right. No, and happy to have her here, too. We like Katherine.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back, as we said, Davey, to 2007. Some of the early winners here, legendary names. Dario Franchitti, the late Dan Weldon, Tony Kanaan. Of course, Ryan Hunter-Ray was the first one to really dominate here. And it's hard to believe that Joseph Newgarden's first win here came way back in 2016.
Isn't that something? Yeah, he's been and ever since then been, the threat to be in victory lane. I think Marco got a win here as well.
Yeah, Marco did. He sure did. Marco Andretti was your winner back in 2011.
Yeah, so, yeah, a lot of different winners, a lot of great names around this track. And I don't know that anybody's ever left here and said, man, I don't like that place. I think it's a challenge. I think they like it. And when you win here, it's just that much more gratifying because it is a tough racetrack.
I think Andretti won the first 9 races here, David.
Wow, as a team. That's right. What a team they had back then. And you got to remember that combination of drivers they had with Weldon, Dario, Brian, and who am I missing? There's that fourth one there right there. So, just outstanding drivers.
And you talk about outstanding drivers. As we mentioned earlier, he's finished on the podium a handful of times here, Scott Dixon, but he's never been in the top spot.
And that's surprising because when you say Scott Dixon has a won somewhere, I'm always a little bit surprised by that because it seems like that he has so many wins and has so much success and championship that he's had to win here, but not an easy one to win. I'm sure it's one that every year he comes here going, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to win in this one? So he's been close, but just hasn't been able to pull it off.
Now, you heard the Indy Next drivers talk about it. You heard, Christian Rasmussen talk about how important it is to manage tires over the run of a race for them. I know that, we talk about tire management typically, Davey, when we've got the alternates in the primaries like we have on a road or a street circuit, but make no mistake about it, managing your Firestone Firehawks over a stint here, 250 laps, you got to be mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you back to Ryan Hunter-Ray, who dominated this place at one point. That one time he was just another car in the field, and then when they came in and put those new tires on, we're going, is there any way in just a few laps he's going to go to the front? And did he ever go to the front? He made such a huge difference. So that really tells you on how important taking care of your tires are and how much. Oh, we got another one in turn 4. It looks like that's McLaughlin. Does not look like contact from where I'm at. He actually maybe even kept it running. I'm not sure. Or the hybrid. I think maybe he fired up with the hybrid. Spun around, kept going. He is back on, not track, but like a little warm-up lane, like it could be a racetrack down there, and going to be heading right back on the racetrack. So small yellow, he finds himself P1, but we'll see a replay there. But now I'm pretty sure he probably stalled it there, Mark, because on ovals you just lock it down, and which I'm sure he did. But this new hybrid system allows these drivers, as long as there's enough energy in those cars, to refire the car for the onboard starter and take off. And I think that's maybe what happened as we watch right now on the onboard. Yeah, same thing. He got behind. It looked like that was VK, and just got some dirty air, put him in that second groove, no grip there, turned the car around. I have to say, all these drivers do a pretty good job at turning those things in. I mean, they maybe would do good at Knoxville. I mean, they're backing those things in.
Marcus Ericsson's got to be thinking, who did I make mad?
Yeah.
I mean, all these other drivers have spun and not made any contact.
Yeah, and the difference was corner entry to corner middle exit, because on entry, man, you're so committed, it takes you uphill, but they already were turned and they were able to keep on. And as you see, what happened there is that dirty air got in his car, the front end slid up a little bit, then when he got in that second groove, the back end just turned around, telling me there's still just no grip in that second line.
And the clock is down to 5 seconds as the yellow flag is in the hand of the starter, but the checkered flag is in the hand of the starter as well. And there it is, a 90-minute session, a couple of 15-minute sessions to bring in a high groove and also an install lap, Davey. So that's a lot of track time for the NTT IndyCar Series.
It sure is. Been a long time watching them, and a lot of things that happened in that session. But that's great run. They all should be prepared. It's final. It's the final time for these cars until we see them tomorrow for qualifying.
So your fastest, Scott McLaughlin, 185.891. Alex Below at 185.536. Pato Ward, third fastest at 184.154. David Maluka's fourth fastest, and Alexander Rossi fifth. Scott Dixon sixth. Canapino seventh. Lundqvist eighth. Ninth Herta. 10th Power. 11th Graham Rahal. 12th Rosenquist. 13th Ferrucci. 14th VK. 15th Newgarden. Siegel 16th, Fittipaldi 17th, Kirkwood 18th, Lundgaard 19th, Grosjean 20th, Ericsson 21st, 22nd, Harvey 23rd, Armstrong 24th, Katherine Legge 25th, Robb 26th, Simpson 27th, Carpenter, and a relatively clean session, Davey, as we've documented. Marcus Ericsson, the only one with a big issue.
Yeah. So no question about it. It very clean, and we had some incidents happen, but only one car, unfortunately, Ericsson got in the wall. Everybody else came out pretty unscathed, and so a lot learned. There was those engineers, the DAG, and the drivers. They got a lot of debrief to do to figure out what direction they're going to go. Obviously, the downforce level slowed them down about 5 miles an hour from the practice in that area. McLaughlin at 185.8. They were in the 190 range, pretty solid at the test. So it looks like, and right now, I haven't heard anything about tire wear or tire complaints. Right. So that's a great thing.